Hello and welcome to Watch From Home Theater, our little corner of the internet where we get to watch movies together even though we're all stuck in a corner of our garage. That's where you guys are too, right? I'm Clint Gage, and tonight we're watching one of my all-time favorite movies, Jurassic Park. Now for the show tonight, we do have some scenes from the film. We got some clips that we're going to be able to show you from the film right here in the stream, but it's not the whole movie. So get your copy of Jurassic Park ready to go. If you got it on Blu-ray or iTunes or VHS, whatever you got, get it queued up to the very beginning, right before the Universal logo starts, and you'll get it synced up with us. And if you don't own the movie, there are links in the description for places to go buy or rent the film if you want to get yourself synced up as well. So go take care of that while you guys are getting all queued up there. Joining us tonight is IGN's entertainment editor-in-chief, Terry Schwartz. Terry, how you doing?
Clint, I believe that if anyone was to have a VHS player for their copy of Jurassic Park, it would be you in your beautiful garage setup right now. I'm not in my garage, but I am in a corner of my house that just happens to be so beautifully decorated with all these fun, great things.
Yeah, that's what it looks like all the time, not just when the cameras are on. Sure.
I just live here now.
But, of course, our very special guest tonight, he played Tim Murphy in Jurassic Park. Joseph Mazzello, how you doing, man? Thanks for being here.
Hello, everybody.
You're going to do the whole score for the movie, right? It's not just...
and not just the main theme, okay? I'm going to be doing the second and third themes as well, all right? Don't worry about it.
That's good because
I have an orchestra in my house here.
We were able to secure the humming rights to the score, so that's fine. Good. That'll be good.
I'm glad you made laws in the first minute of doing this.
Yeah, no, we're already off. They cut us off. But yeah, again, thank you. We're done. But thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate having you here.
Of course.
Like you got, and already I have questions about things you're sitting in front of.
Yes. Yes. Oh, this old stuff.
Yeah, all that old stuff.
I didn't even notice that I was sitting in front of all of my memorabilia from 25 years of films.
Look at that.
Idea. What do you know? I mean, speaking of VHSs, that we're talking about the Jurassic Park VHS right there.
There you go.
I'm in my childhood home, so I have like all my old films. I don't have anything from like Social Network. I have barely anything from the Pacific, but all my childhood stuff is here, which is really exciting. So you'll see a lot of VHSs of my movies, because that was the last time we got
a whole shelf full of VHSs. That's great.
And if, come on, if you're watching this and you don't already own Jurassic Park, shame on you. Okay, go
Seriously.
get it.
Listen,
go get it.
I don't think
We need.
I don't think I, as the host of the show, can officially say that. So I'm glad you did. But I do want to ask about that T-shirt back there. What?
Yeah. Oh wait, which one? What
the
other side.
oh,
Other side.
Yeah, there, whichever shoulder that is. I lose track of left and right.
This is pretty great. Just something just dropped. Don't worry about that. This is a T-shirt given to everyone on the crew after we survived Hurricane Iniki. Some people might know that Jurassic Park was filming during the largest hurricane to ever hit the United States before Hurricane Katrina. And it happened in Kauai. And so because we all were hunkered down there, it's kind of the same feeling as right now, we all got these lovely T-shirts with a dinosaur hanging on for dear life. I love this. I tried to wear it tonight, but this was fit for a 9-year-old, and though I am still quite a slight man, I couldn't quite get into this beauty. But I figured I'd hang it up for old time's sake. Maybe, by the third hour of this, I'll try to fit into it.
Try to fit, yeah.
That's the most incredible thing, and also the most 90s crew tee that I could possibly imagine.
Yeah. I love it. It's all vintage again. It's great. But I do understand you have because you're not in your current home, you're at the childhood home. You have a couple of pictures of things that you would have shown off had you been in your LA home.
Yes.
Do we have?
Yes.
And I think we have those. Starting with this raptor.
Yeah. Yes. This was probably the most incredible wrap gift I think I've ever gotten. It is an original model raptor. So the ones that they had, like Stan Winston and all those guys, that whole team came up with. Wow. There he is. And I was given that, and with a you can see it on there, like Steven has it signed it and says Joey on it, because he always called me Joey back then. But it's a really incredible piece. It's in a very strange picture because I was moving, and so I tend to take I don't usually keep it on my floor next to my old printer. And
how big is that? How much space did that take up?
It's pretty big. I mean, for scale, what can I say? Like, it's like about yay, I think.
Okay.
That's incredible.
Because like you have to pick it up, you have to go like that. So it's pretty big. Bigger than, you don't have any scale there, which is a shame. But yeah, there's the front, one of the pictures of the front of it, right? It's pretty gnarly, huh? It's
so cool.
And that's like an original from when they were.
That is the one made on Jurassic Park for Steven Spielberg to say, hey, what do you think of this design? Like, that's it. So it's pretty remarkable. It's an incredible thing to have. I'm pretty excited about it. That is a crew picture. People are familiar with these. Every crew kind of gets together on a day when you have a lot of the cast there and take a picture. And that's us on a soundstage at either Warner Brothers or Universal, but it was in LA after we left Hawaii. And you see me there next to my double. We had doubles. So there's always someone kind of dressed the same as us, and Spielberg in the middle. And you can kind of pick out the whole cast. My dad is even in it back there. He always made sure he got in all these pictures.
I love this glamour shot.
Well, I mean, he didn't even know the camera was there. This is Steven knew like how much I just loved the idea of directing, and how much I wanted to go to film school, and how much he inspired all of that. And so this is a little joke he had for me. He gave me this, to Joey, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. Mazzello, because he wanted to inspire me to become a director, and I did do it. Undrafted. That's a hat from the film I directed.
Nice.
It's a baseball movie, but yeah. And this is a great shot from the premiere in DC with Laura and Jeff. I have another one here, a different sort of version of it, if I can get it out without wrecking this entire thing that I built. Here's another little version of it, but I just
great.
But you can kind of see it there.
That's such a cool guy lean you have going on.
I know,
there,
that's the thing. Like, I really was like leaning into it exactly.
Yeah,
a crooner. The 40s, but I mean, they were so wonderful on set. Are you kidding? It was just such a pleasure to get to see everybody again on that one. What else you got? I'm sure I gave you guys a couple others.
we might have. What else? Nick is switching. Here's some more from the. Oh, here's a good one on set.
Oh yeah, that's Sam. I don't think Sam is giving me the finger in that photo, but I can't be sure of it.
He seems like the type of guy who would point with his middle finger and not mean it, as like that's just like how he's pointing things out on.
Yeah, no, I think that I genuinely believe he's not doing that. But yeah, I don't even remember when this was from. This was just a day in Hawaii when we were on set, all bloodied up, in the middle of the park, and yeah, there you have it. Just horsing around like I always am on every set I've ever been on since I was.
He was giving somebody else the finger. And he popped up, and he was like, "Whoop, got to shift that."
Yeah.
Joseph, if I can get you to be just a touch closer to your microphone, I think
sure.
I think we just need to get you a
Absolutely.
little bit louder.
Closer all together, I think.
We like to call Watch from Home Theater Up Close with Joan
Up close with faces.
How is that? Is that a little better? Can you hear me all right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it might be a little better.
Any better? I hope so.
I think so. This like, correct me if I'm wrong. This movie seems like it would have been the most fun to shoot.
Yeah, like ever. Yeah.
Yeah, like of all time. Like you're like 9. You're like, I get to play not even like CGI make believe like you would now, but we saw the T-Rex in the previous cruise shot and like all the practical effects that they could use then that help this stand the test of time. It's so much fun to revisit as a fan, and I'm so excited we're doing this here with you. But like, I can only imagine what it was actually like to like be there and live out that fantasy.
It was pretty remarkable. I mean, right now the picture that I think you guys have up is of me and my double and my stunt double, and the same for Ariana. And stunt doubles, when you are a little boy, are actually played by grown women. That's who the stunt double is, and that's Laura Dash. Laura Dash was my stunt double on about 4 films I think I did when I was really young, and so it's just so funny to see us all together, all in the same garb. But yeah, I mean, are you kidding? This like you saw in that last picture with Sam, like just how happy I was. I was that happy every single day on the set because it was just like so phenomenal to be there and just to be like living out a dream. You're around dinosaurs, you know what I mean? You're with the best director who's ever lived. You're having the time of your life in Hawaii. We would go home, and like boogie board until the sun went down. It was just like everything about it. You had wild adventures in a hurricane. It was just a dream come true. And it all starts from the top. It all starts from Steven. He knows just how to deal with kids and how to deal with, his crew. And he's very loyal, and he works incredibly hard. And it's just, it shows in what he does.
That's great, man. Thank you for sharing all that stuff. That's really cool.
These photos are amazing.
So, yeah. But we're going to get started here in just a second. So just a reminder, as we're watching the movie tonight, we'll be keeping an eye on the comment sections of wherever you're watching. It's on a couple of different YouTube channels from us. Universal's putting it out in a couple of different places as well. So wherever you're watching, just please leave your questions and your comments there. We'll try to ask as many as we can while we're on air. We'll also stick around for a minute after the movie to ask some more. So pay attention for that. But Universal is also, like I said, they're streaming some of this on their channels, but they're doing some giveaways. So keep an eye over on Twitter at Jurassic World. They've organized some fun prizes to give away from Mattel and Ravensburger and Funkoverse. They are 10 mystery prizes that they'll be giving away tonight. So keep your eyes out for at Jurassic World, handing out those goodies. And like I said, we're going to get going here in a minute. So if you haven't gotten synced up, go ahead and make sure that you're sunk up now. Joe, one more question for you. Can I ask, when was the last time you watched Jurassic Park? I'd wager it's less recently than I have.
The last time I watched it was when it came out in 3D.
Okay.
My friends forced me to go with them. Like literally like dragged me out of my house. Like, you have to come and sit and watch this movie with us. And everyone had their 3D glasses on, and they were like looking at me and then looking back at the screen, like having the time of their lives. And seeing it in theaters again was like, even, with 3D and a sort of different experience, was really pretty awesome. And so it was nice to see how well it held up after all these years.
It does.
That was like 7 years ago, I think. 6-7 years ago, probably.
Yeah, something like that.
I rewatched it several weeks ago, and I will say it still holds up really great, and we'll find that out tonight when we watch it too. The effects, like, so good. Movies that came out
Right.
5 years ago don't look as good as half the effects in this movie.
That is one of the most remarkable things about this movie for me. As groundbreaking as it was for the time, it still looks really good. Like, I mean, most movies that are like, oh, this is the first time that we've done X, Y, or Z, like 2 years later, it looks pretty lame. But this one, not the case. Turns out everybody knew what they were doing, which is good news. So I think we are ready to go here. So everybody get your cursors or your thumbs or whatever you need to hovering over the play button, and I'll count us down if everybody's ready.
Ready.
And I wait just a second before I realize that I won't be able to hear anybody at home answering me. But let's just go ahead and count it down. 3, 2, 1, play. First question every week. What's your favorite studio logo? People have their favorites, and they have very specific reasons for it. So
I did a number of Universal films, actually. So Universal's is really close to my heart. I loved Columbia Pictures. That was Radio Flyer.
That was good. Okay.
That was an awesome one. I mean, MGM is tough to beat.
Got that roar.
I was always a 20th Century Fox guy myself.
I just thought that was a part of this Star Wars opening crawl when I was a kid. I just thought it was like all the same thing, the music, and yeah.
No, wait, I'm sorry. We're watching Jurassic Park? I thought we were watching The Lost World, and I'd be done in 5 minutes.
Okay, that's such a good...
You're...
Except for the first, 2 reels. Can we skip to reel 3? When
I do, yeah. It is funny.
I don't even know what a reel even is anymore. Film. It's film. This movie.
A reel is it's 15 to 18 minutes. That's all we need to know.
Yeah.
It's so interesting learning that you guys did shoot during an actual hurricane, because I'm curious, how much of that experience impacted some of the creative elements. There are some big important rainstorms in this movie for many of you who've seen it.
Well, that was the thing, is that the day before it happened, we only had to shoot one more day in Kauai, and then we're going to go to LA and finish up the last 2 months of the film. And it was headed towards Oahu. We were all watching the storm warnings or whatever, and so we're me and Ariana and the kids were all sweet, we're gonna have big waves tomorrow. We're gonna be able to boogie board, and it's gonna be awesome. And then my dad woke me up at 6 o'clock in the morning, in a panic, and just said, "Joe, we got to get out of here. We're back to the hurricane, switch course, and now it's headed directly for us." So that morning was all us going crazy trying to pack, and then Spielberg, he's the man. He just kind of went around. He's like, "Actually, you know what? We're gonna wait it out. I've been through these things before. We'll be fine." And everyone was like, "Okay, I guess we're going through a hurricane." And so we were all sitting in the hotel, and they put us up in the ballroom, and they basically got all the lawn chairs in from the pool, and got catering and craft services to set up for us. And we were just basically at camp for a day, where we were all hanging out together while the hurricane was on its way. And Spielberg's mentality was, "Oh, this is great." Exactly what you said. "This is great. We can film this as it's approaching, and maybe we can use it in the movie." That's the kind of passionate / nut he was. He lived and breathed and died and bled for his movies, and no matter what, the movie just came first. And so it was just incredible to see that kind of passion. He actually, and my dad and he, they went out during the eye of the storm. The eye of the storm went right over us. And so they actually went out in that moment where everything was calm before the second part hit. I was not allowed to do that. I really wanted to.
You're important. You were the talent.
It was really fun. It was so much fun. And then we walked out when it was over, and it was just devastated. The entire island, every tree was snapped in half, every window was shattered, and we couldn't imagine, we couldn't understand the devastation that happened from that. And then it was just, we had to wait it out a couple days, and Spielberg got, I don't know if it was his jet or Universal, started just flying the cast and crew back and forth between Kauai and Oahu just to get everybody off the island. And we all ended up staying in Oahu, and we finished the last day there.
Wow.
But that was wild. It was wild even for my mom, who there were no cell phones back then. They were just in upstate New York, hearing on the news on whatever ABC, just hearing the crew of Jurassic Park, is stuck on the island where the hurricane is coming through, and all the phone lines snapped, so like there was no communication with us, and it wasn't for a couple of days that we could actually like get a family to let them know, like we were okay and that we were coming home. But
You got that cool T-shirt though.
but I did. I survived Hurricane, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
Right. So one of the things I wanted to mention too about that opening scene that we just saw, and again, just a reminder, we don't have the entire movie to playing on the stream tonight, but we will have some scenes mixed in. But Terry, there's something funny, like growing up with this movie and like how many times we've seen this movie. There were certain parts of the movie that you just couldn't watch.
Yeah, are you outing me for the thing that I told you guys before we started?
Yes, absolutely. Because there's something, and I also want to ask you, Joseph, about like, about being in the movie and then seeing the final product and like how scary was it and all that stuff. But
so thanks for violating the privacy of the digital green room. But fine with all our close friends who are watching this right now. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty young when this movie came out. I'm dating myself a bit, but I was like probably 6 or 7 when I was like watching it for the first time, and I could not watch that opening scene. I had to leave the room. It scared me so much, the Velociraptor attack, and like me and my dad would go around and like do the little like raptor claws at each other and stuff and recreate the end scene. But that first scene, that and in Independence Day when they're doing the alien dissection, like I had to leave the room and come back because it looked so real and it was so scary and it was like a jump scare, and I'm a huge coward.
So you just can't handle any Jeff Goldblum movies. You just
and you're outing me that The Fly freaks me out, you guys.
No, well, it was an Independence Day reference. You just outed yourself on The Fly.
Fair. That's fair. Shoot. Yeah. That opening scene though is such a great way to like set the stage to my mind of like this is a great action adventure family movie, but it's scary too, and it's consistently scary throughout.
Did you see any of it before, like outside of like when was the first time you saw it? I guess
the first time I saw it was at the premiere.
At the premiere.
Yeah, and so I was only at the premiere. I was 9 years old when I was shooting. I turned 9 while we were shooting it. And it's a PG-13 movie. Like there are some scares. There are some things that are like terrifying in this film. And I just remember like there were moments like for that first scene for sure, where you just like, and Spielberg was always a master at like only revealing so much and letting just like your imagination be like even more terrifying than what you're seeing. And so just seeing that like hand slip through like Muldoon's grasp and just kind of like come in and fading out on that was just like, I was already like, man, I don't know if I'm ready for this.
I should probably get out of here.
I have a little brother too. He was like 7 or 8 at the time, and my mom was in the theater going, "John, close your eyes, close your eyes." And like he would have to close his eyes, like, and she's like, "Okay." I thought a scare was coming, but okay, close your eyes again. But like I remember when we'll get to that part. Laura Dern says we're back in business, and the raptor just comes from.
Oh yeah, we'll get there.
I jumped out of my seat.
And don't worry,
it still gets me every time.
I'll out myself at I'll let you know the moment that I couldn't watch when I was a kid when we get to it. But Joe, if you can lean in just a little bit more. Sorry, just for audio. But I do want to
my earpods. Do you think that would be better or no?
Probably. Yes. Yeah.
Let's do that.
All right.
While you're doing that, we'll cover for you.
Right back.
I do. So right now we're watching this first scene where we're getting to meet Dr. Grant and Dr. Sadler, and he is just dressing down this poor kid. It's funny. Like I never thought about it until I became a parent, but I like where is this kid's mom or dad, and why aren't they telling Dr. Grant to chill out? Right? Like
it's Dino Camp,
I know, but who is this kid?
But
it's something that never occurred to me, because like honestly, that who cares, right? But because it's a movie, but like it's something that never occurred to me until recently. It's like if this were my kid, I would have stepped in and be like, look, I know he's kind of a jerk, but just take it easy, Dr. Grant. Like you're scaring the crap out of my kid.
I love the arc though for Grant of like the great softening of Alan Grant over the course of this movie, and that ties into Tim Murphy too, and Lex and like how he comes around to them, and Sam plays it so well. He's such a jerk at the beginning of this movie, and especially to Tim, sweet Dino loving Tim meeting his hero.
Okay.
we can hear him again. And this is also a good moment to say thank you to everybody for your patience while we're watching from home, dealing with some tech stuff.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny about these Ellie and Alan outfits because I've seen so many Halloween costumes for them, and they're just
Can you guys hear me or no?
Yes,
yeah,
we can hear you great, and we can see
hear me. I cannot hear you though.
Oh no.
Well,
we'll
in the meantime,
talking.
we are getting a thumbs up from our TD, so you sound great. If you can read my lips.
I don't think he can, but their costume is so iconic for all that they're just like archaeological.
Well, and it's a testament to this movie, right? Because I mean, it's khakis and a flannel and just denim, and that's all it is. But it's like such an iconic and like instantly recognizable costume. This movie is really a gift to last minute Halloween costumes. Nothing else.
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to figure this out.
No worries.
No, you are all good.
We do have a question. I have a question just lined up from our audience. As soon as he gets back, that I'm going to ask him. So I will remind everybody, wherever you're watching, make sure you're leaving questions and comments there, and we'll get to them. We're on a handful of YouTube channels and on
I'm going to try to leave the chat and then come back.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. I do love every time we meet these characters in this movie in particular, and Spielberg is really good about this just in general, but like the first time that we meet characters are always like so expressive. Like the fact that we met John Hammond while he's popping the cork of champagne that's not his,
right?
I think is such an interesting way to meet this guy. Like I love the shorthand that gets used with a lot of these characters, and just how you kind of instantly get to know. It happened with the lawyer earlier when he's slipping on the rocks and banging his head in the mine.
Yeah, this movie is brilliant at showing, not telling. Like you can tell so much about who John Hammond is from the way he's acting about this entire thing. Even his helicopter's lack of regard for dinosaur bones that they're working so carefully to unearth. Because why would he care? He's reinvented dinosaurs. They're back, for him already, and these characters are about to find that out.
And he's gonna fund them for another 3 years, no problem, with what he found in his couch cushions. So, can you hear us? Are you back?
I can hear you.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
We
yes,
can.
Lord have mercy. Thank you.
All right, we did it.
We did it.
So before we get out of this first scene where we're meeting Dr. Grant, I have a question from Rowdy Redhead who's watching on Discord.
Am I back?
You're frozen.
You're back.
Yeah,
you're here.
You're back. Okay. No, he's frozen.
He's frozen.
Now he's sipping from his coffee mug. There we go. Here's a question from Rowdy Redhead for you. Is Sam Neill as awesome as I think he is?
How awesome do you think Sam Neill is?
That's a good counterpoint.
Good counterpoint. But
you don't want to say yes to that.
Now, the answer is most likely yes, because Sam is just an incredible guy. He was so much fun on set to be around. We had to do so much with him. We had to get in the mud with him. We had to, he had to be our surrogate father for a lot of this movie. And so he was just phenomenal and really warm. And we had to share some very intimate moments in this movie, including a CPR scene that was true. We really did it, mouth to mouth. So I've kissed Sam Neill. It was my first on-screen kiss, and it was everything I hoped it would be and more.
Yeah.
Truly one of the most iconic scenes from this movie.
Yes, the human piece of toast.
How often do people say that to you? Is it often still? Does that go away over time?
Human piece of toast don't get all the time. A lot of what do you call blind dinosaur? And it's like, guess what, guys? I know the answer. That was my joke. So
let me try that too. Yeah. Clint, it's your fashion inspiration for the night.
I went channeling my Nedry for this one. But we were just talking about while we were getting reconnected with you, Joseph, about how great the character introductions are in this movie. And these are two other, like when we first meet Dotson and he leaves the taxi cab door open as he walks away, is just so telling and so great. And then we meet Dennis here, just like he's eating and he's just so greedy about everything. Like the way that Spielberg introduces all of these people is just incredible.
I know. It's Spielberg's a master. I mean, every shot is a work of art. You know, he storyboards, and so he has a plan for everything, and knows just how to execute it. Like, there's no throwaway shots. There's no shots that he just sort of mails in or phones in and says, "Well, we just got to get this one." You know, there's no nothing to him is B-roll. Everything is that's what I always say about this movie. Like, you can think about this movie and think about 20 shots off the top of your head that are just iconic, you know, like there are images that are always used from this film and they're always different, you know, and you can point them out as we go, but it's just, he's just a master of his craft and knows how to establish characters, knows how to establish the arcs of characters and what their journey is going to be. Even this scene right here that we're watching now in the helicopter, you know what I mean? Like, okay. Like, you reveal Malcolm through Ellie's leg.
Yeah.
Well, what do you need to know about him there? It's just he's brilliant, and I missed Attenborough's opening as well. Who talk about a lovely person. Richard Attenborough ended up directing me in the film I did right after this called Shadowlands, which is up there somewhere. That one there.
It's up there behind me somewhere. Here's another question in talking about Spielberg and just not a wasted shot or anything. Jade Winter, who's watching on YouTube on IGN, asks if you filmed any scenes that didn't appear in the final film.
There were no scenes, I think, that didn't appear in the film. Because again, Spielberg. We finished this movie. We shot this movie, and we were done over 2 weeks ahead of schedule.
Wow.
Like Jurassic Park.
Happens.
Exactly. Like no movie. Like now.
And you had a hurricane.
And we had a hurricane. We lost a day from the hurricane. And but isn't that the thing? Like, you do movies now, and the script is being written while you're doing it, and then you have to do it goes over budget, and then there's like a month of reshoots, like where you're like recrafting the story. Like, none of that. This was Steven Spielberg. This is Jurassic Park, and he knew exactly what he needed to get. And so we were done 2 weeks ahead of schedule. I can only even think of a couple like small things. Like there was an idea that when the cars are driving themselves a little later in the movie, that we were going to be going over this land bridge. They found some crazy land bridge in Kauai. But like, again, like when these cars are being, I feel like I'm giving away all this stuff. I'm not in this movie yet that we're watching. Like, I need to wait on some of this stuff. But those cars are supposed to be driving themselves. Well, in reality, there is a guy in the trunk of the car with a little TV screen, smaller than my iPad that I'm on right now. And he is hunched down on his side like this, driving the Jeep, driving the cars. And wow. That's how they're being driven. They're being driven by people in the cars in the trunk. And so when my dad saw that land bridge with like its death on either side, there's no like barriers. He was just like, we're not doing this one. Like, no way, no how. So the doubles ended up being up for it. They ended up going, stunt doubles. And but then they ended up not putting that in the movie anyway. So that was the only shot I can even think of that was like not that we did that didn't end up in the final cut.
It's interesting because you hear stories about like, movies like Star Wars that are kind of found in the edit, but knowing that kind of what was intended to be executed for Jurassic Park is what you guys shot and what was finished is extra impressive because it's pretty different than the source material. It's like been taken and rethought from the Crichton source material and reconceived in like just the most consumer friendly, iconic, appealing way that to like go in with that vision is really interesting to learn.
Well, this is a little bit of an aside, but I am very thankful for the fact that it wasn't completely faithful to the book, because that's the reason I got the job. In the book,
Right.
it's actually the boy, the son is older than the daughter. Tim's older than Lex, and I was actually offered Jurassic Park. I did not audition for it, and the reason for that is because I was doing a movie called Radio Flyer. Some wagon.
So what?
Did you
And,
choreograph this beforehand?
Yeah.
Obviously not. If I'm like, yeah, it was a movie called Radio Flyer, directed by Richard Donner, who's depicted over there. And he and Steven were really good friends because they produced Goonies together. And so they knew each other, and he would come on set because he wanted me for the movie Hook that he was about to do. And so we were shooting on the Warner Brothers lot, and he had all of his Hook sets, like Neverland was on the lot. And so he would take me over there and show me everything. And I ended up doing a screen test, just Steven Spielberg, Robin Williams, and Dustin Hoffman in a room together for an hour and a half, just the four of us, and to test me to play Jack. And it's like literally Steven holding a camcorder, and it's Robin Williams just cracking me up for an hour and a half where I'm trying to do these emotional scenes and can't even keep it together. And Dustin Hoffman, and after that was all done, I guess I was just like still a little bit too young. I was only like 7, and they wanted someone who looked a little like more gruff and was a little older. And so Steven came up to me and he just said, "Don't worry, Joey, I'm going to get you in a movie this summer." And that movie ended up being Jurassic Park. And he switched the ages of the characters in the book so that I could be in the film.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So that's a pretty big compliment.
That's the least he can do after putting you through the ringer like that.
Yeah.
So hard.
How dare you make me spend an hour and a half with 2 of the all-time greats.
So this is one of the most iconic scenes in the movie when they first
I love the way Sam takes his glasses off.
The shaky glasses.
He like grabs her full head and turns it to like that whole, like he can't even look at her. He's just like can't communicate. But it like, I
was just gonna say, look how incredible it looks. Like this movie is from '93, and it's just remarkable. I mean, we already talked about it, but it was such a perfect marriage between like CGI and practical effects, and animatronics and puppeteering and all of these things. The great Stan Winston just at the top of his game, and finding a way to marry it, and it's just remarkable what they did. And I think that's why it still holds up so much. A lot of movies I think nowadays like lean too much on the CGI, and it can feel like a cartoon. As brilliant as these people are at doing this, it still doesn't feel like you can reach out and touch it so much. But when you have a raptor that you can reach out and touch, and then you quickly see, him scurry across the screen, you are already believing that it's there. And so I think that is a part of the reason why, this movie still stands the test of time, because it was like the perfect marriage at the perfect moment. Music swell. Da, 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 da.
Like you like know the music even if you can't hear it on full blast. Like even that shot going into Isla Nublar.
Well, and just this, even Richard Attenborough's "Welcome to Jurassic Park" right there. Like there are so many different. In fact, like we should check in with that later. Like we should have a what's your favorite line contest or something, because there's so many iconic lines in this.
They
and, like,
do move in hurt.
Yeah, they do. There's 2 of them right there.
Do.
It's sort of a Rorschach test. Like, what's your favorite line from Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
There is something, I know we can't, the score right there, going from that super majestic swell of seeing everybody into this like really business-like, almost military kind of march. It's such an interesting gear shift too, to see like here's the majesty of it, and then now we're about to look at like sort of the underbelly, like kind of the tougher side of it.
So this set, was this shot in Hawaii, or is this something you guys shot back in Los Angeles on soundstage?
It was both. The outside, I believe, was Hawaii, and most of the inside was in LA. That's just hopefully my memory serves me.
That's like a place I still want to visit. I'm like, I want that set to still stand.
I know it's just incredible, and I mean the way that set, like, even okay, so there you go. That whole like entrance is established right there near the beginning of the movie, and when you get to the climax, it plays such a like an important role, and you see the banner up there already. You see like the bones. It's just like it's just really and what else is really great about this film too is that it takes its time. Like it doesn't just like jump you into just like monsters, explosion, city burn, you know what I mean? It's like they set it up. They take their time like establishing these characters, making you fall in love with them, explaining how the technology works in like this fun, amazing way with like animation and whatnot. And like it feels, again, it's supposed to be like a park. It's supposed to be a theme park. And so like they take you through it like you're actually like there. It's just like it's just really something that like I appreciate about this film that you don't always see anymore in films of its type. That's the thing, is that like, this movie is like, I was just saying this the other day, even though it's, yeah, of course, about dinosaurs, right? Like, ultimately, it's a really intimate film. It's not that many characters. At its core, it's about this guy who hates children and doesn't want a family and finds them repulsive and annoying. And through circumstances, he has to like step up and be the father figure to these kids and save them in this dire circumstance. And in the end of the film, like ends up having them both sleeping on his chest, content. And he shares a look with the woman he's with. And like, it's like that simple, like that little idea of family. And I mean, so many of Spielberg's films, you can go down the line about like father-son dynamics and just like fathers and like, you know, and families not quite working, but in the end, hopefully working, you know, or I mean, in Close Encounters, it's much darker than that, you know, but like E.T. or like, you know, Indiana Jones, like you always see those themes in his films. And I think Jurassic Park just nails it.
Yeah.
Well, this is a lot of the questions that we're getting have to do with Spielberg and your experience with him. So there's somebody on Twitter, Pat MV Ray, is asking, did Steven Spielberg ever give you advice that you still keep to this day? Joe's Teeth on Discord had the same question. Was there any? I mean, because obviously, like, you know, it had to have been an amazing experience that young to be working with him. But is there anything that he said, any advice that stuck with you?
Yes, on a number of levels. Because, like I said before, he was so excited that I was interested in directing that he would literally like he himself would knock on the trailer door where we're doing like on-set schooling and open it, be like, hey, I want to show Joey this thing I'm setting up. And then like, you know, take me out of school and like, you know, go and show me the shots like on set, the cranes. And that was, I wanted to have this photo for you guys of me and him standing under a crane, him explaining something to me. And he just wrote on it to Joey, who survived a hurricane, a T-Rex, and me. It's just like it's my absolute favorite photo I have of him, but it's in LA and I couldn't get it. But anyway, I digress. He was just Steven is always so great with children because so much of his soul still has that like childhood whimsy and imagination. He still loves movies the way he did when he was 9 years old. And so sometimes I genuinely feel like he relates more to children than he even does his peers, because like that is like the soul that he has. But I remember in terms of acting, like Steven is also someone who will do just one take. He's like the opposite Fincher, who I also worked with. Plug. But humble brag. No. Steven,
take the humble right out of that. That's
yeah. That's
and like Steven's doing that on film, where he's doing one take. Do you know how dangerous that is? If there's something wrong with that one take and it's film, that is so much money. You know what I mean? But like he's just like, if he finds it and he knows what he wants, he moves on. And that's how he like stays the course on his films. But I remember one time, so this is a long-winded way of saying, as an actor, he like often just let you do what you wanted to do. He was so good at casting. And especially with kids, he never casted kids who were just like cute or had a good look. He like casted kids who would really like act. Like look at like his track record with like Christian Bale, you know, and like Drew Barrymore. Like he just like the list goes on for what he's done. But I remember he would let us ad lib a lot. And I remember I had some ad lib I was doing where I said something like, "This is the '90s, right?" Like back in the '90s, that was a big thing to say. This is the '90s, like that's in modern time.
Yeah.
And he came over to me, and he was like, "Hey, Joey, you know what? let's try a different ad lib than this is the 90s, because you know what? It'll make the film dated. And then someday, like 20 years from now, people are going to watch this film and it's going to feel old. It's like, you never want to put yourself in that box. You want movies to be timeless. You don't want them to be like of a certain era. And I was like, totally get it. Like an 8-year-old kid. And I'm like, that totally makes sense to me. Let's drop that and let's do something else. And so I think about that a lot. Like, you have to ad lib quite a bit, when you make movies. Like, I was ad libbing all the time on Bohemian. Like, and you have to like kind of think about like not just that moment, but that these movies are like eternal essentially. And they will go on long after we do. And like, that's his mind, right? He's not only like so obsessed and like understands like the smallest little thing on set, the smallest detail, but also these like grand ideas of filmmaking and what like the medium means and what it will be in 100 years.
And that's true too. Like, if you think about if that line was here now, which would have played so well then, that would have been that moment where you're like, oh yeah, that's it. This movie is, yeah. But how ironic that we're sitting here, 27 years later and sitting and watching it, and it's still,
And that is a story I've never told before. I've never in any interview ever told that story. And so I'm glad that a completely unique new piece of information was recorded today. That makes me happy.
Nice.
Exclusive.
We'll get that clipped out right away.
I love this raptor birthing scene so much, because I mean, it's, we're talking about like the introduction of elements, and it's like, it's not quite a puppy, analogous to a puppy, but it's so cute. And like, what harm can it do? And obviously the raptor becomes a key part of this movie, but it's like, it's so interesting and still looks real enough, which must have been puppetry or something at the time to craft that. But it's such like an interesting way to introduce this very dangerous creature.
I do also, this is one of my other favorite character introductions. When we first meet BD Wong's character, he's actually erasing something. Like, the head scientist has just made a mistake when we meet him, and I love that. I don't know really how awesome. much of that was. I mean, obviously I'm sure it was intentional, but there's just something that always stuck out for me.
You bet.
Like, he's got an eraser because he keeps making mistakes.
You bet.
But
I saw him recently, actually, BD Wong, weirdly. I went to like the premiere of season 4 of Mr. Robot.
Oh, nice.
Because obviously I'm really close with Rami, and he was there, and so we actually took a picture there, which was pretty cool. Like, to have never actually like spent any time together on this movie, but like here we are 27 years later, like still kind of, acting in the business, working, and just like it's just so funny how how much everything changes. It still stays the same.
Yeah.
We do also have a handful of questions that have come up about. Let's see if I can find the specific ones.
Poor cow.
This poor cow, I know. But wondering how much if you keep in touch with anybody in the cast. See if I can find out who actually asked that, so I can
give him a shout.
Well, the answer is it's back then it was a lot more difficult because your only way of communicating was with phone calls and letters. There's like not even email, like no one had an email address. There was no social media. There was like no texting, nothing like that. Like, now I keep in touch with everybody, but in movies I did when I was a kid, it was so, and this is sad to say, but a lot of times it was very much like you were this really close, tight-knit family, and then your lives would sort of disperse, and I would go back to upstate New York, and Sam would go back to Australia. Like, you would like kind of just like go your separate ways. But with that said, like, I saw it's more about like chance encounters where you want to like see each other and like have a chat and like just like kind of, I don't know, revel in the fact that you like got to be in this incredible film together. But like, I saw Laura Dern pretty recently because we were doing like all the award stuff last year with Bohemian. And so I got to see her a couple times. We had some really great chats, and she just was as radiant as she ever was. And it was just like really wonderful. Yeah, Steven is the person that I probably keep in touch with the most. He and I just we've been like this past year we've been exchanging a bunch of letters, like literally still handwritten letters, which is amazing.
Nice.
But just like just like talking about whatever, like our careers, and he saw Bohemian, and he apparently didn't recognize me because I had the wig on and had a British accent, and he like leaned over to his cashier, so like, who is that? Like, who is that actor? Like, and then like,
you know what, he's
me.
good.
It's like, of course, like,
Yeah.
it's like, of course, like, and so then we started exchanging letters, and I really want to, he asked me if I could, if maybe I would be able to come to the set of West Side Story, but I wasn't able to get it done, which is really sad. By the time I was, fully like in the throes of it. But West Side Story is like one of my all-time favorite. I love musicals, and my parents were dancers. My dad was on Broadway, and so like that's a big part of our lives. And so I was just like so excited that he's doing that, and I can't wait to see it. So I see him quite a bit. He, as I was telling you guys before, he actually wrote my recommendation for college to get into USC.
It worked, right? You got in? Okay.
I if you can believe it, guys, for some reason I got in. But one of the things in my childhood home that's nice is that I get to find things like this, like written by Steven Spielberg. And we had a really funny encounter actually when I was at USC, where I was taking a test, like a final or something, and we're just hearing like it's in a theater, and outside the theater we're hearing like all of these like scores, like the USC like band is like playing like E.T. score, and then like they're playing Indiana Jones, and they play Jurassic Park. I'm like, what's going on out here? And so like we're all upset because we're like trying to take this test, we can't concentrate. It's like, what in tarnation is happening out here? And we go out there to find John Williams is there, and John Williams is conducting the orchestra because they're having an event that night, and Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are going to be there. And so that night I went and saw him, and it was probably the first time I had seen him since I like grew up. And so when I first saw him, I was like, "Hey, Steven, you recognize me?" And his first reaction was, and he like had to have a moment where he was like figuring it out, and then he was like, Joey, to give me a big hug. He's like, George, this is Joey. He was in and so we had this amazing thing, and then of course, like I ended up doing the Pacific, the HBO miniseries, where I ended up like having to audition in front of him again as an adult. And so my life with Steven like kind of we keep crossing paths a lot, which is a really wonderful thing. And so
cool.
he's the one that I stay up with the most, I think.
I
tracked him down. That was
that's probably
that was Taylor Lee Joey on IGN, and Juana Fernandez also watching on IGN YouTube that had those questions. Thank you for those. Also, let me just real quick remind you guys that here in a few minutes over on Twitter at Jurassic World, they're going to start giving away those prize packs here in a few minutes. So something from Mattel, something from Ravensburger, or something from Funkoverse. 10 mystery prizes going to be given away here in just a few minutes. So keep
all
your eyes out.
All you got to do is like the tweet.
Just
Could
like
not
the tweet.
be more easy to submit.
There's at least a chance. Yeah. Joe, I swear, if you win, I'm going to be so mad. So here, checking back in with the movie here. We're at this conversation over dinner. Like, this is the movie to me, right? Like, this discussion that they're having about the pros and cons of the park,
the ethics.
Yeah, and there's another, like, they were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop think they should. That's in the lead now for my favorite line of those.
I say that a lot at work.
Right?
I like that. Like, that works its way into my like daily life as an unintentional reference, but just like is a thing.
Very wise.
It is very. You sound very smart when you say it.
I love when Attenborough says the only one that's on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer.
Thank you. Yeah. So the other thing that's happening here is 40 minutes in, and here we got the kids. Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Oh my God.
We're in it. We're in it to win it.
There you go.
My very high voice. Hi, Grandpa. I don't know how.
I'm curious. So I think it might people who aren't super familiar with the process of making films might not think that like it's not always your first scene that you're introduced in the movie that is the first scene you shoot in a movie. They oftentimes can be very out of order. And I'm curious, what was the first scene you shot, or if you remember?
I don't think I do remember. I don't remember. I mean, it was something in Hawaii because Hawaii was our first location. So it was probably it was an exterior, but I cannot remember what the first thing we shot was. I have no idea. I hate to disappoint you.
No, I'm just like, did you have an understanding, or how did they kind of convey the scope of the movie? Like, or did you kind of take it piece by piece and then you kind of understood it when you finally saw the movie at the premiere?
I mean, at this point, like, I had done actually a number of films, even though I was only 8 years old. So I knew, I figured I got it. You know what I mean? Like, kids have such good imaginations anyway, that it's like, we get it. Like, we have to start from somewhere else, and we know the story, and we're going to be good to go. I mean, this scene is so good.
I love this scene. It's so funny.
I will say,
annoying Dr. Grant with all of my knowledge. This was among one of the first things, because we didn't start with any dinosaur stuff. Like we were like the characters going like, when are we going to see some dinosaurs in this thing? And we just wanted to see them, you know. And so the first couple weeks there was like nothing there.
You are going to have some dinosaurs in this dinosaur movie, right? No, there's something. This is another great introduction, because like Tim as a character is it's such a grown, like there's, you know, so casually grown up for such a little kid too, which was really, really cool.
I remember distinctly like choreographing that, and just like Steven taking us through it, and how I had to keep talking after Dr. Grant slams the door on me. You know what I mean? Like, I remember all of that like so vividly.
Just unfazed by a door slammed in your face.
Yeah. And just like having so much fun and like challenging, you know, like this guy who's an expert in his field. And I'm like, I don't know about your bird theory, bro. Not so sure about that one. But it just, it absolutely, it establishes Tim as this like, you know, wonk, this like dinosaur loving kid who's like the perfect person to kind of come into this park and see if it's going to be an attraction that is going to be, you know, worthwhile for the investors and whatnot. Like, when you think of it in that sense, like, it's a theme park. Theme parks are for kids, and here's this dinosaur loving boy who's like kind of the perfect person to see if it's going to work.
Yeah. It's such a good use of a tracking one shot too, where he's just like this. Alan is trying to escape, and he can't escape the kids between Tim and Lex. Yeah,
it's pretty great though. I mean, like, if I have had one constant in my entire life, it is guys my age, you know, who are in their 30s, telling me that when they were like, you know, whatever, 11, 13, 15, you know, whatever it was, that they went and saw Jurassic Park 6 and 7 times in the theaters, because, of course, for the dinosaurs, but also because they like related to me. Like, they would say that to me, like, I grew up wanting to be you. Like, you're the reason I love movies. And it's just like this really like surreal sort of thing to have people like kind of tell you that, you know what I mean? That like you were an inspiration to them when you were like a little boy, you know what I mean? It's sort of like weird, but it's also just like, it's really humbling and you know, a wonderful thing to know that, like, you know, I don't know, that like just like a generation of kids just like kind of latched onto you and wanted to like be experiencing what you were experiencing, and that like you, for them, like you were the character that kind of they lived Jurassic Park through. And it's just such an awesome thing to like to think about. And it still happens. Like, it still happens to this day. People come up and tell me.
I love that.
Here's an interesting question that coming from Beverly Marsh on Discord. I guess the character from It maybe is on Discord. Hi, Joe. I wonder what do you think happened to Tim after the experience in Jurassic Park? Where would he be today, and how would it have affected his life? Obviously, we saw him briefly in The Lost World, but do you ever wonder about that? Where he'd be all grown up?
Of course. I hope we get to find out someday. You know, not quite yet, but we'll see. Maybe someday figure out what happens to Tim. But I think it's like, it is a great question. It's something I do think about all the time, because there's so much I think that you could like do with this character. Like, he was like sort of the obvious heir to like John Hammond's fortune. He was the heir to Jurassic Park, and like, would this experience have turned him away from dinosaurs and make him hate dinosaurs, this thing he once truly loved? Would it be that he wants to be the one to kind of like step in and run the park the way it always should have been ran? You know, I know that there's been like stories about like Tim and what happens to him and where he works, and like he has his own park and like wants to you know, kind of do it with just, you know, dinosaurs that won't eat you. But I just think that like I do think it would be awesome to see what happened to Tim Murphy, you know, as an adult. And I don't know, I just think there's so much you could do with that character. And yeah, you never know. But maybe one day we'll be able to find out.
Yeah.
They got to make a lot more movies. That's what I'm saying. Okay, a lot more films.
They're making them. I mean, it's so interesting where you have these franchises that like start with a movie that's our world, but just a little bit different. So this is like our world, but if someone had brought back dinosaurs, and then you get these movies that follow that path. So you, in the present day, get a world not only removed from our own pretty significantly, because at this point dinosaurs have existed for 20 or 30 years, but also how does that impact a character who's grown up in a world where dinosaurs have existed, and that's a reality and a field you can work in and all of that, especially since, you know, he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff sometimes better than Alan.
Yeah, and sort of like being patient zero for this experiment too, you know what I mean? Like he could be totally against like all of this, or he could be like, I'm the one who knows how to do it right, or who knows, you know what I mean? Or he just be he could be the new kind of Dr. Grant, like you know, kind of the leading voice in the field. You know, there's just so much you could do. It would be I'm glad that like, you know, Jurassic Park has kind of become like this thing that like through the generations that like people are still interested in, because you know, these were just such amazing characters that were created, like every one of them, even what we're wearing, you know what I mean, like all of that. I feel like even like you might have missed the bit earlier where we were talking about how weirdly iconic these are as Halloween costumes, when it's just jeans,
clothes.
It's just regular clothes. Well, guys, when we were shooting in LA during Halloween, and Ariana and I went and trick-or-treated a night after working, and we just stayed in our costumes, but with all the blood and everything and all the dirt. And we did it together, and we would go up to houses, and they would be like, "Who are you guys supposed to be?" And we were like, "You'll see." And then like would run away like, "Ha!" Like we had this great inside joke, and like in a year from now, they're gonna get that.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
We literally went. Yeah, we went as ourselves for Halloween.
Tim and Lex were the first people to go as Tim and Lex for Halloween.
That's right. Through like Toluca Lake in LA.
Great.
If anyone knows where that is.
It's great.
We know in LA.
Yeah.
We missed another. Well, we passed it, but another now iconic line, especially of the whole dinosaur, like dies. You know, man makes dinosaur kills me. Women inherits the earth. Yeah. Like Ellie Sattler becoming an increasingly more iconic character as the years go on. I love it.
Yeah, and I have such like as an adult, I have such an appreciation even more for like what Jeff Goldblum did in this movie. Just like he's just so like riveting. You just need to listen to everything he says. He's funny, and he's just like someone gave me. Do I have that? Yeah, someone gave in of Jeff Goldblum in his iconic pose, and it says, you know, a life finds a way.
We had him small plug for an old IGN video, but he was promoting like the Jurassic Park game that came out a couple of years ago, and we got to interview him, and we attempted to have him do like an oral history of that iconic scene, and it's like in the most Jeff Goldblum way. He just like recounted like getting into his headspace for like luxuriating there. It's so funny. But that, it's like those moments that in any other movie would be throwaway. But like even this scene right here where he's putting the water on her hand and it's, you know, explaining game theory. Yeah, chaos theory. Like, because you watch this movie so many times and it invites rewatches, like every scene becomes iconic. And, you know, how can you pick a favorite? They're so good.
Well, and
when he says here, like here I am talking to myself, that's
like context-wise, it's not a terribly crucial scene, like him explaining chaos theory with the little experiment and everything. But like, man, you cannot cut that out of this movie.
The
He's so
water.
interesting.
Very
And
important.
the way he's like flirting with her and kind of like rubbing her hand like subtly in front of like.
There's like 11 things going on in that scene.
Yeah.
It's great.
And even that shot is through like it was a shot of just when Jeff Goldblum is just sitting there talking to himself after everyone's left to look at the Triceratops, I think. And it's just like, it's through the windshield. It's just like him literally alone talking to himself. Yeah. It's like something like that is where Spielberg just like nails it. That shouldn't be a close up. That shouldn't be from inside the car. It has to be outside the car to just like feel how awkward it is.
And I'd have to go back and check, but I want to say that's the only time they use that angle in that entire scene. Like that was specific to that gag, I think.
Right.
Yes. And now here I am. I'm back at it. I haven't finished with Dr. Grant.
You've been talking the whole time to him in the different car.
Steven, every time I would walk on set, I love that when I say like the other guy's book was a lot thicker and therefore he's like smarter. But this was a little ad lib too when I'm doing like the dinosaur. I like kind of like I remember who came up with me or Steven.
We lost you just a little bit there when you were explaining the ad.
Yeah,
I think you're back.
I'm back. Okay. Yeah, so it was just like a little ad lib of like, I don't know if it was Steven's idea. It probably was. It might have been mine. It was like, we would go back and forth, like creating these things, even as a kid, which was great. But like, we just had this like little bit that wasn't in the script where I was like showing, like on the book, like my version of a dinosaur, like just any way I can connect to this guy, just like yak, 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 yak at him, getting in his face. Right. But anyway, I was saying before, like every day I would show up on set, the first thing Steven would do would come up to me and he would like tussle my hair. He was always like, "You're a little boy. Little boys shouldn't have such neat hair." He always wanted my hair to be messy. So that was literally on set every day. It was like, "Who keeps combing his hair?" And he would just like wrestle it.
So if you're just joining us, we're here watching Jurassic Park with Joseph Mazzello. If you want to make sure and be synced up with us while we're watching along, we do have some clips that are playing during the runtime of the film, but we don't have the whole thing. So right now we're in the middle of the Triceratops scene. There's also a time code on the screen that you can sync up with. So go ahead and get your copies of Jurassic Park queued up to that time code, and you can join us. Now this Triceratops scene, this is a great scene, I think, for Ellie's character here. I really enjoyed like the shift that she kind of takes. Like just on a dime, she turns into like super professional scientist. Like there's the awe of like, oh my god, it's a dinosaur, and then she's on the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and meanwhile, Dr. Grant is just like feeling and breathe. It's like childhood.
What did that Triceratops look like on set? Like how many pieces was it in? How many people were in there working it? Like
that was the first dinosaur that we saw while shooting, and he looked just like that. It was the full dinosaur.
Yeah.
It was not in pieces at all. It was like the whole deal. Every dinosaur that was on that set had about, I think, 20 people operating it. They would always be and they had like their own little machines. Like one machine would just say like eyelids on it. One machine would say nostrils on it. One machine was doing the breathing, whatever it was, like a neck. Like they all did it, and it had to be like, it was like an orchestra where they had to know exactly at the moments that they were supposed to be doing everything with these dinosaurs. It was quite an undertaking. It's pretty amazing to think about like exactly how much effort it took and how much manpower it took, and back when you had these like actual like machines on set. It was pretty incredible.
One question that I want to put in the back of your head: if you already have an answer to this, if we've already seen it, you can let us know. But if not, just let us know when we get there. But a lot of people, Dariana Pazos on IGN, Ain Noah, sorry for butchering that, on Discord, Master Illuminati, Cloudy Twig. Point is, there's a lot of users asking the question, what was your favorite scene to film, your favorite moment of the movie? If we've gotten there, what's your favorite scene and what was your favorite moment in the movie? Because they could be different. But let us know when we get there if we haven't gotten there yet. But otherwise, now that we're all into your scenes.
Okay, yes, we have not gotten there yet. But I say this a lot too. Like I've every movie I've done, I've really enjoyed myself, with like very few exceptions, where like I wasn't just like having the time of my life every day. There's nowhere I would rather be than on a movie set. But Jurassic Park was truly like something, just a phenomenal experience in every single way can think. It does not, like, the worst day on the set of Jurassic Park was still the best day on almost any other set I've ever been on. And that's not to take anything away from any other movies I've done. Like, I've had like the time of my life, like throughout my entire career, but there was just something about this film and the character I got to play, who I just loved Tim Murphy. I loved playing him. I loved what he got to do. I loved what he got to say. I loved how smart he was, how outgoing he was. Because I was never actually that outgoing of a kid, really. Like, I love when I was with people I really knew well, I was very outgoing. But with strangers, I would always like sort of recoil. Being like famous after Jurassic Park was really hard on me as a kid. Like, people recognizing me, I hated it. But like getting to play this guy who was just like having, I don't know, just so outgoing and such a smart kid was amazing. And then having a director who could identify with me, and I didn't feel at all condescended to, or that like I was like someone was patronizing me or patting me on the head, but just like literally like someone I felt could say anything to me and I could say anything to, and you could be like a partner. It was just unbelievable. For 2 months, which was this incredible thing, like, you know. And then like just when we were at Universal, we would do field trips, which would be going into Universal and riding like that was part of our schooling, believe it or not. But like, you know, it was just like every facet of it was just like so fantastic. The locations, everything about it.
So it's all.
So I will pick a favorite scene.
All tied for first.
But no, I will pick my favorite scene because I think I do have it, and I have a least favorite.
Okay, we'll get that too.
Which I will also talk about. Yeah,
I would guess, and don't give it away, like poker face. Yeah. I would guess it would involve a lot of mud, maybe.
Is it one of maybe.
I was like, did he freeze? Oh my god.
We lost him again.
No.
Now we touched on this a little bit earlier about how thoroughly the movie's set up and like the stakes of the film and all the characters and everything. Here we are at 55 minutes, an hour into this movie, and I think when Nedry clicks execute on starts his program there, like that's really the first bit of like tension. Almost like there's a lot of gravity and a lot of cool things that happen, obviously, and the opening scene is really scary. But in terms of like action or tension or any of that, like that's really where it starts, and we're an hour into this movie.
One of my favorite things about this movie, and we were talking about it like a little bit earlier, you know, we're talking about so much about how you enter the scene, how you meet the characters. This movie is so grounded in the perspective of the characters. Even that shot of Tim walking up to seeing the Triceratops for the first time, it's through his legs. Like you're a child with him, feeling that sense of wonder. And like, it does such a good job of distracting you from all the things that would cause tension, all the kind of like little warning signs here and there throughout the movie, because you're experiencing the wonder of going to Jurassic Park for the first time with these characters. That you're right, Clint, when he hits that button, that's when it's like, wait a second, we've already established that he's going to do something bad, and all these characters I've spent the past hour really coming to like be endeared to are in danger in a way that I had been completely distracted from as a viewer.
Yeah, they just like it's. Sometimes I feel like these days they don't give audiences enough credit, like to be able to just kind of like immerse yourself in the experience and not be checking your watch or whatever. And like I said before, like flush the characters out, let it breathe, because ultimately the payoff is going to be better and bigger because you are now them, what they are feeling. And you know, I mean, Spielberg's an artist. You know what I mean? He's not just someone who just kind of would just throw an explosion in wherever there was a lack of like depth. He always wanted to make movies that were art and entertainment and meld them together perfectly.
Plus, he knew he had this scene coming up. As the power as the power goes out and the cars stall right there in front of the T-Rex paddock. We've gotten a bunch of questions about this scene that's coming. We're not quite there yet, but just to get you ready, there's a lot of different questions, particularly about what it was like working with the T-Rex. That we'll get there in just a second. I thought we were. I'm always so antsy for the scene.
I know, it's so
when
good.
I watch it, I thought I jumped the gun a little bit there, but
you got. I mean, I was talking to you guys a little bit before this about my Fly reference, but like how those moments in movies when you're like, but what if it just didn't happen this way and everything was fine after that? And this scene coming up with Nedry when he hits the sign and he just spins it to like try. You're like, what if he just didn't and everything was fine?
I know. Every time you do wish, like for movies you love, you wish something different for the characters.
I know.
It's such a funny thing.
Well, here's the question while we're waiting for this panic attack scene to get on there. This comes from Twitter. Twitter user at Sledgehammer.
Hey, Pacific reference.
On a scale of 1 to 10 Goldblums, how amazing was it to work with Jeff Goldblum? Please, Jeff, I'm begging. So Sledgehammer begged for us to answer this question. A scale of 1 to 10 Goldblums.
It's a 10 Goldblum. It's a 10 Goldbloomer. I'm not just saying this, guys. Like, that awesome. I remember this is something that happens at the very end of the movie, but when we're flying off in that helicopter, that was like just like the one blue screen day we had. It was blue screen back then, green screen now, but in those days it was blue screen. Talk about dating yourself. But it was just like a helicopter in front of a blue screen, and we just had the 6 of us had to be sitting in this. I think it was 6 of us. Yeah, or 7. I don't know. Anyway, I can't have sitting in the helicopter, and so Jeff just decided to entertain maybe himself, or maybe he was doing it for my benefit. But he started coming up with these little like bits that we would do, like these little like scenes within the scene. And so he just had this thing where he was like, okay, I'm gonna like point out the window, and I'm just gonna say these people look like ants down there. And then Joey, you're gonna respond, those are ants, you idiot. We haven't taken off yet. And like he would just come up with these like stupid little bits, and we would like perform them for the other cast. And then Steven would come over and be like, Steven, you gotta see this thing. And we would like perform these little stupid bits for like Steven just to like keep us entertained. And he's just like very much that kind of like cheeky, sort of like smiley kind of person who just likes to have a good time, I think, and find all of the like absurdity and fun in life.
I love that.
And just could not imagine another Ian Malcolm.
I know.
It's
you were talking about casting, but there's like this perfect like chemistry soup of all of you in the movie where it's like every character and every actor chosen to play the character are so distinct from each other that like their personalities pop and complement each other so well. And it's true, like, you know, you're right. You can't picture anyone else playing these characters because it's the way that you all play off each other too, with those differences that like gives it that magic.
Yeah, I love that little bit that we just had there when, you know, the aforementioned blood-sucking lawyer tells me to put down the night vision goggles because they're expensive. I just blow them off. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
So this is
they didn't work though. People always ask me that. Did they actually work? They did not. I couldn't see anything when I put them on. Here you go.
Here's
talk about iconic.
This is the same. The ripples in the water.
That's why you needed the chaos theory flirtation.
Very
everything
true.
Everything has a purpose.
If I remember correctly, they had it like a guitar string or something underneath that they would like pluck to get it to do that. It was like hooked up to the bottom of the cup or something.
Yeah,
it was like almost a little magic trick.
That's what I had heard about that. And there's a couple of questions that have popped up on YouTube. A handful of different people have asked it. Yeehaw Cowboy, who's watching on IGN YouTube. Let's see, Blue Sky on IGN YouTube. There's a couple of users that have asked it. Sorry if I didn't get to all your names, but wondering about here in a minute when the T-Rex breaks through the glass on the top. There's an old rumor that was accidental. Is that
that old rumor is accurate, partially accurate, I will say. It was well, because here's the thing: it was supposed to come down on us, and the plexiglass was supposed to come down from the top, but or a car, whatever it is. But what wasn't supposed to happen is it wasn't supposed to come down as far or with the force it comes down on. And so on one of the takes, and a piece of it like flies off. That was categorically not supposed to happen. The car that a huge machine is coming down on.
Yeah.
So that one's supposed to happen. And what actually, and you can see it, like if anyone is watching at home on Blu-ray, or you can pause it on something high def. When the T-Rex did that, it lost a tooth. And they tried for like a half an hour to get the tooth back in. So Spielberg was just like, the heck with it, like just forget it, and we'll do it without the tooth. And so there's a moment in the movie where like the T-Rex opens up wide on us, and it is missing a tooth.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I haven't noticed.
and it's quick, but it is there, and you can see it if you pause it, which is pretty incredible.
So as we're moving into this scene, there's another, and we can be eagle-eyed when that shot comes up. We'll try to find it while we're watching.
Yeah.
But
Find the tooth.
Find the tooth. Get that hashtag going. There's some other users that want to know about. Just was it scary to see this giant animatronic T-Rex on there? There's Slifer the Canadian asked this. Rowdy Redhead on YouTube on IGN kind of same question about how was it seeing this giant dinosaur for the first time?
I know people want me to say yes, but the answer is no. It was so exciting. I had been waiting forever to see this thing, and when I finally saw it, like in all of its glory, it was just so phenomenal. I mean, the T-Rex, when like basically the way you know if something's CGI or not is if their feet come off the ground. Like if it's running, it's CGI, but if it's like static, like this shot, like through the window when Lex is shining the light on it, he's really there, right? Like that's like the easiest way to know if it's like there or not. Yeah. And so they had about 80% of it on set, you know, and you know, just like maybe the feet would be like machine, but everything else was like really, and so it was just so cool. It was too cool to be scary almost. But what I was always scared of is the fact that these were like multi-ton machines that were heavy with a scary face.
So real quick, this part.
Yeah.
So just again, because I think you might have broken up just a little bit.
There it goes.
I think I might have saw the tooth. Yeah, you saw the tooth.
Well, you saw it break at first. The plexiglass break, which was not supposed to happen. And even there, the plexiglass isn't broken, and right afterward.
So partially, the rumor that it was accidentally, the entire thing coming through was always supposed to happen.
Yes.
Partial
breaking,
accident part.
Yeah. And then obviously its tooth was not supposed to be missing either. This was, you were mentioning the mud before. This was not my least favorite thing. It wasn't. It was like goopy, and I was like the kind of kid that didn't like to have any dirt in his fingernails.
Yeah.
So it was like a little gross. And it was a little scary because you're like, we were being like pushed down into this tank of like oatmeal, essentially. Like right there, this shot we're watching right now. So that was like a little scary, just like I don't want to drown kind of thing. But it was like also once we did it and I got over that fear, it was like pretty cool also. You know what I mean? Like it was hard to find a moment that like wasn't like just super cool to do. And I loved stuff like that. Like, and Steven knew that. Like I love the how are we going to do this? You see it in the script, and then he would be like, this is how we're getting it done, and it's just like like your imagination, like, you know, just kind of runs wild. You just like love it.
Oh my God, this scene.
So this was scary. This, when I was watching the premiere, when I saw it the first time, I was scared of this.
To out myself, like I promised I would earlier. This is the scene that I couldn't watch when I was a kid. I saw this movie. I would close my eyes like while he was standing there looking at Gennaro on the toilet, and I would open it up when I heard this happen. Because Jurassic Park was the last movie that I saw in theaters like 12 or 15 times, and every time I didn't watch that scene a single time in the theater. Couldn't handle it.
Now, what does it say about me that scene I always found funny as a kid, but I couldn't handle the opening scene?
it's the perfect combination of like the humor with like the fear. Like he
Yeah.
is sitting on a toilet and it falls off around him. Like it's hilarious, but then he gets eaten and it's not as
Well, and this whole sequence is full of stuff like that. Even the shot that we just missed of Ian, wiping the sort of squeegeeing the inside of the windshield so he could see, like, just releasing all of the tension just as soon as it gets built with humor is great.
Yeah.
Which for a terrifying scene, it is a pretty funny scene also.
Yeah, I know. But then, immediately you have like the kids in danger, and you have Dr. Grant, immediately stepping up. It's amazing how much this film changes right in this moment, and
And everyone's split up at this point too. Your unit that you've been following up until now, you don't know what's happened to Ian. Ellie is still with the Triceratops. You don't know what's happened with her. You've had your first death in the movie, right? Well, the first character who you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and just one thing after another in this sequence too. Like, now we have to go grab that other cable so that the car doesn't fall on us.
Right.
And all of this was on a soundstage. All of it was on a soundstage at Universal or Warner Brothers. They were both. But these sound stages, guys, were huge. Just enormous places. I remember stage 27 at Universal. That's where we did the tree stuff that's coming up. It was like 3 stories, like or maybe even more than that. But you had to like take a ramp down to the bottom of it, and just the entire jungle was built.
Wow.
It was just such a feat when you would walk in there and see like what had to be built. Just nothing like it.
Meanwhile, Ryan Guerrera, who's watching on Cinefix, wants to know if you got to keep those goggles. Did you get?
No. What did I get to keep? I mean, you got
a Raptor.
Model Raptor. Like, there's nothing better than that. I don't want goggles that don't work. Maybe if they worked, I'd be interested in keeping them. But other than that, forget it. No, my souvenir was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that T-shirt.
Yeah, that T-shirt.
Worth it.
I survived Hurricane Aniki T-shirt. That's the one.
That going back to the T-Rex scene, because it is just so iconic. I mean, it looks like you talked how some of the stuff like the feet might have been CGI, but it looks like it was largely done practically, right? Like, so most of that, what you're seeing is what you guys shot.
Yeah, very little of it. I mean, just when you saw basically the T-Rex go across, like in between the 2 cars when it first comes out, and you actually see its feet come off the ground, that was CGI. But all that stuff with like us in the car was all there. Us looking through the T-Rex looking through the car, on top of Lex and Dr. Grant. All of it was there. I mean, obviously, it was CGI when the whole bathroom stunt, but yeah, I mean, it was pretty much. I mean, the T-Rex was always there on set, and there was just very, very little CGI, which was pretty incredible.
Here's another question coming from somebody following along on Discord, wanting to know if you've ever played any of the. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Abbey Road on Discord, wondering if you've ever played any of the Jurassic Park video game. There's a playable Timmy Lego character in the Jurassic World game, the Lego Jurassic World.
Oh,
game.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
To go pick it up.
I do. What system is it for? Like, does anyone know? Does it say? Do you know?
That I'm not sure.
I'm sure producer Nick will find out for us.
Yeah, somebody will find out for us and let us know.
I had the I obviously had like all the action figures. They like gave us a bunch of them. I had my action figure. I thought I had it here, and again, my childhood house gave it to my 5-year-old nephew. But we used to like literally play with the Jurassic Park toys, and then like my brother and his friend would be like, okay, well, let's put Joe, on the cliff, or let's put Joe here. You know what I mean? Not even Timmy, but me, Joe. So that was always kind of surreal and really funny. I found, what did I find? I have a mirror. I have a Muldoon still.
Oh, Muldoon's
and
best.
I have a one-armed Nedry.
Oh no.
They were yeah. Well, it's supposed to come off, but I can't find the arm. But it's so like they looked nothing like us. Like, this is Nedry.
It's a cool looking Nedry.
I know. I don't know about that. Which was always sort of sad. Like, Tim was like more like the character in the book. He was like the older, he was like almost 6 feet tall, I think, compared to like the other figurines. But yeah, I played with those. I played the Super Nintendo Jurassic Park game. My brother and I would play that. We had like the playing cards. I have them upstairs somewhere. It was just like we had all of that stuff growing up, and people want to give it to us, and so we were knee deep in Jurassic Park merch. But this new stuff, dang it, I gotta get on that.
You gotta get on it.
Play a Lego Tim.
I think this scene honestly is one, like it has its goofy moments where there are things like the like slipping sound that he has that I always think is so funny. Yeah. But
it's like a slide whistle mixed in there.
I love that.
But it's like, the T-Rex is scary. After you watch the movie for the first time, raptors are scary. But this is like, there are a lot of like dinosaurs are dangerous, even the ones that don't feel dangerous, and you really feel like the threat of that here and the danger they're in beyond just like the T-Rex.
And Wayne Knight just, here's a stick, stupid. Here's a stick. Yeah. No wonder you're extinct. How good is that? But that's again like Spielberg being just brilliant, like marrying the humor and the fear for like PG-13 movie. Like when it gets too scary, like he releases the tension with a bit of humor, and then when you think you're like a little calm, like he ramps it back up. It's just like that roller coaster takes you on. It's just so.
And here we have this great moment with Dr. Grant and Lex, and this is a great little mid of Dr. Grant's arc that we talked about earlier about, this is a movie in large part about a guy, who doesn't want a family and coming around on that. And here we are in the middle, just that, but that's not what I'm going to do. It's such a great moment.
He was actually made for this thing that he thought he hated almost, This was that soundstage, stage 27, where we're in this tree. This was one of my favorite scenes. My goodness, I loved this. We got
Would you call it your favorite scene? The favorite
scene?
Not
the,
okay.
But probably like
just wanted to check back in.
Maybe number 2.
And not the worst scene. No,
okay. I'm sorry, you were probably about to say something really interesting about filming this scene.
I don't know, maybe not. We got to all this stuff like coming down the tree that happens was all ad-libbed. None of it was in the script. It was just like me and Sam just like bantering back and forth, and Steven there, and the three of us kind of like coming up with like kind of what would be said, about like hating trees or whatever.
The tree house that you didn't have and things like that. I do love there's a whole energy in this scene where Tim pretty clearly doesn't want anything sugarcoated, like which I think is great, and also in thinking about it in terms of like Dr. Grant's story of just like, this is how we're supposed to treat a kid, right? And there's this kid going like, no, this is impossible. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This feels like a big scene to me that's a turning point for Tim, though, because up until now, like, he's very precocious. He's like trying to connect with Alan in a way that, clearly is not working for Alan. But in this moment, he's a scared kid in danger, and like it feels like a point for their relationship, even how he finds him in the car in that way, and this whole scene going down the tree.
Yeah, there's sort of this like sweet moment there where Tim is like obviously like embarrassed that he threw up because he wants to like impress Dr. Grant and kind of be like tough. Yeah. And like he feels like he's not tough in that moment and feels like, a little vulnerable. This was so awesome. Coolest things ever, seeing how this was done, because you had at the bottom of the, when the car lands on the ground, you had me and Sam doing the action of like him coming over me and like falling to the ground on top of me, and then the car did that without us there, and then they just married those two pieces of film together, and it looks like it falls right on top of us. Right. And, like, seeing stuff like that on set was just so much fun. Like, and we would stick around for it. I would stick around and just watch the car do it by itself. And then probably my favorite line that I say is, "We're back in the car again."
Yeah. It's got to be in the conversation. It's a great line.
And it was really, like all out of breath. Like, we're back in the car.
Yeah. At least we're out of the tree.
Yeah.
That kind of leads me to, I mean, we're sitting here able to quote this movie. I mean, Terry and I we've been talking about this about more or less. I don't remember not having this movie in them. You know, like I'm just kind of right there. But so here's another question that we got on a couple of, this is Watson Keen 221B, who's watching on YouTube on IGN. Did you know this movie would be so big? Like,
No.
Did you know it was going to be? I mean, here we are 30 years later talking about it, you know, online.
I remember very distinctly that its big competition was a movie called Last Action Hero with Schwarzenegger. And
which, by the way,
was like,
also a great movie.
But it was like this
say
big thing. It was a big thing where it was like, oh, like the box going to be, you know, which film's going to make it to number one. And so we thought it was going to obviously be, you know, do well. But I don't know, as a kid I didn't even like think about that stuff really. But when we saw it, when it was number one, and then it just stayed at number one week after week after week, and at the time became the highest grossing movie ever. I think it was the first movie ever to make $1 billion internationally. But that was something that I just could never have possibly imagined. Never. And like I said, the way my life changed, like I grew up in a small town, and we would just go out to eat, and it would just be like, oh, you know, lines of people like wanting to get my autograph, because it was back in the autograph days.
Right.
And it was just like this wild, like absolutely wild ride that I didn't expect. And then like, and that was the other thing, like they had like a world tour, like a press tour around the world, which I didn't end up going on because I was actually doing another film. But like, I can only imagine like going to Japan and like going to these other places, just seeing like how fans reacted to this film. It was just a really wild sort of experience that, very grateful for it. And I got to, you know, obviously to this day have a really great career, and I owe so much of it to this film.
It's so interesting too, because obviously, like, it's a very successful film series and a franchise that extends in so many places, but it's a huge part of the Universal theme parks too. And like, that was always, I don't know how, if you've been to them or how many you've been to.
Oh my goodness.
Even the Universal Osaka in Japan has a whole Jurassic Park section, which is like just insane to walk around and do and be a part of. And you feel like, I mean, I remember hearing stories about Universal Orlando where Spielberg like picked out the specific flora for that section of the park that would have been accurate to that period and that time to make it feel like you're there. And you do for a little bit. You feel like you're in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, well, we were there actually, me, Ariel, and Jeff were there for the opening of the Jurassic Park ride in Universal Studios in LA. I have like 1,000 pictures. Yes. Oh yeah. No, this is a great one. Especially because of my haircut. What's happening
Nice.
there?
Oh, we all had that
You
haircut.
needed a
That's
tousle.
okay. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Mom and Dad. That was, you know, terrorism, I'd say, against me. Who, I don't know how I ever worked again if this ever got out, because I don't even know what is happening there. They used to cut my hair with the Flowbee, if you guys know what that is. But it was really fun. I was sitting next to like General Schwarzkopf, like on the ride, and like, we had some pictures I couldn't find where it's like the picture that they take when you're on it, and he's just like, yeah, like loving it. It was
great.
like it was so fun to be there, and kind of to even be like a part of something like that.
News to all you,
you know.
Storm and Norman fans out there.
That's right.
Yeah. So we mentioned earlier talking about how cool the sets were and everything. And here's another, this tree, like my takeaway from this tree, and still to this day, is like, I just want to climb that tree. Like the tree that you guys are in right now looks like so much fun. It doesn't necessarily even look like like I've never seen a tree like that, but it's like I buy it in the Jurassic Park, and it just looks so much fun.
Yeah, I never had any fear of heights, so I loved climbing. So all this tree stuff was pretty great. the snot I could have done without.
Right.
I would say. But
We've got a few
I only
questions about
I only
that
got hit a
too,
little
yeah.
bit. Only got hit a little bit. Poor Ariana had to get the brunt of that one.
Yeah.
And I got to have another really fun line with the God bless you. I really enjoyed that one.
That's a good one.
I like to be a little smart aleck. That was always really fun.
Clint, you said we have good snot questions.
We've got a
queued up.
couple of. I mean, mostly it's just people are wanting to know about that. There's Andros the Warrior on IG and YouTube. There's Haley, who's also watching on YouTube. A handful of others just asking about what your reaction was when the Brachiosaurus sneezed. Like, what was it like? The scene. My question is, do you know what the snot was made out of?
I don't
I'm always
know.
curious about that.
I don't know, but boy, it felt like snot. It was goopy.
Could have been snot.
Guys, it was thick. Okay, it was some thick snot. Let me tell you. Yeah, and like I said, Ariana just got covered in that stuff, and it was. I don't think it was even supposed to hit me, but I had to like stand back and kind of like get in a corner so as to like not get hit with it, because the gag was, of course, that she is like finally coming around to one of these dinosaurs, and it backfires on her. And
the front fires.
Yeah, like all cool, calm, and collected. I used to have that dinosaur. Do I still have it? I think I do upstairs. There's
really?
That green one. I think I actually have that upstairs.
Oh my
I should have
God.
brought that one out. But yeah, so that was another about that green dinosaur. Oh, I got like a lunch pail too from around here, I think.
Yeah, I would want like one of each of these if I worked on this movie.
It's just scattered everywhere.
I did. I might have lost track of it now. There's a question in here somewhere. Somebody was asking if you stole anything from set, and this feels like a good set to walk away with something from. Just some of that merch.
Did I steal anything? I don't think I stole anything. Anything I basically like wanted, I think they just gave me. It was a pretty big budget. They could afford it.
They could afford it. Hard to say no to a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I like, oftentimes like when you do movies, you get to take some of the like wardrobe, but I only wore one thing, so it wasn't like I could like peruse through like all of these. You know what I mean? I didn't really need the khaki shorts. I had a couple of those at home. I didn't need any of the ones with like the mud all over them, so that wasn't going to do it.
Where's the scene where Tim wears that cool jacket?
Yeah. So that didn't really. I didn't really steal anything. No, I was a good kid. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have done that.
That's why you got the raptor.
That's why I got the raptor, exactly, and got that Spielberg. A couple of those Spielberg shots. Yeah. From before.
So again, if you're just joining us and you want to make sure you're synced up with us, there's time code that's on the screen right now. But we're also right here in this scene where Hammond is talking about his flea circus, surrounded by all this ice cream that he has to eat because it's melting. Which I've always found this is such a sweet and kind of sad scene, right in the middle of, because once like we said, it took a while for the tension to really ratchet up, and once it does, it like right up until now, and then we just slow down with this scene.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a few better actors who ever lived than Richard Attenborough. He's just an incredible director and an incredible actor. And the fact that I got to work with him as both an actor and a director is pretty remarkable, and something that I am still pretty and I miss him dearly. He was absolutely the sweetest man. And the performance he gives in this movie is just unbelievable. Like, even what happened before when he says, could you please go and bring back my grandchildren? Like, and you see that like this man who seems like he's all about dollars and cents, like immediately turns when he realizes like that he's put his kids in danger. And then in this scene, when he's still working with like the idea of wanting to be like, the guy running the circus, and wanting to kind of put on a show and not realizing, totally like what he's done, you know what I mean? He's like still in that kind of in between space between like the recognition of his errors and his, desire to, still make this, his dream come alive.
Well, it's such a tricky
beautiful.
character to get the empathy for, right? Because played just a bit differently, he becomes a villain or a fool.
Right, like in the book, he's it's much darker, his character. But yeah, Dickie Attenborough called everybody darling. Everyone said was darling.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Of course he did. That's
I
wonderful.
know.
I'm so happy to hear that. So here's the scene that we've already talked about a little bit with the Brachiosaurus sneeze.
Mm-hmm.
This is another just giant animatronic, just gorgeous
right
animatronic head.
Enormous. So huge against us. It's wild. I don't think we're that high up, actually. Like, you saw the ground. It was like a foot more.
Right.
So that we could like kind of lean over and do this kind of thing.
And not feel like you're about to plummet.
Yeah, we're about to. Exactly.
I mean, it's so, you know better than we do about, like, again, modern green screen and blue screen and all of it that you have to act against. And what a joy to be able to actually act against a dinosaur that exists. Like, that completely changes how, like, being able to touch that, I'm sure, and reach out and have that moment instead of, like, having it be a floating, tennis ball. It changes so much about the movie.
Yeah, I feel really, again, lucky to like have been able to be in movies like this where they, oh my goodness,
it's in her mouth.
Clearly in her mouth.
I got that little bubble on her lips. Yeah. And that look. Oh my goodness. This is that scene where I was saying that thing about this is 90s that was taken out. This little bit right here.
Oh, what was the 90s version?
I can't remember exactly, but it was just, again, like he always had the scenes and kind of, have some like banter and stuff. And so that was where that was going on. But I don't remember that version, exactly what was said then. But yeah, like to be able to like to shoot on film, which is like such a rarity these days, to be able to have like had a whole part of my career where shooting on film, like that changes things too. Like now with it being digital and like zeros and ones, like there's not as much care for it. Like, actors now, like people like will just like go back if like you mess on, you just out of series where you go back just like 30 seconds, because film is so expensive. It was like you had to be ready to go from start to finish, from action to cut, and to play it out in its entirety, because you knew that like you hear that that is money going through that camera, and you know what I mean. And so like even like that, like everyone has to take such care of what they do, and I think like even being on movies today, it's a little bit. Oh yes, there he is. Malcolm.
It's amazing to think that maybe he only got one take to smolder that perfectly. What a pro.
He might have. I don't know.
What a pro.
More sheen. More glisten.
Yeah.
Just spritz him some more.
Right.
It both disturbs me and endlessly amuses me that people have like made the meme of Alan on the Triceratops, but it's on Ian Malcolm in that scene where it's like he's like leaning on him like that with pure joy.
Sam Jackson is so great in this movie too.
I know, what an incredible movie that has taken us long to dress how good Sam Jackson.
Yeah,
I know, right?
That's how you know you're doing something right. When you're an hour and a half into a movie and you haven't even talked about how good Samuel L. Jackson.
Hold on to your butts. Great line.
Yeah, is that the? It's like
We'll
that's
see when we
gotta
get
be
there.
up there.
It's gotta be up there.
We gotta do a list of like the 10 best Jurassic Park lines or something.
People are dying right there. That's a good one too. And of course, everything he said, everything Richard Attenborough says in this movie is perfect. But
even earlier in the movie, it's like, "How did you do this?" He just goes, "I'll show you."
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah,
I love all these old computers. Talk about dating it. There you go.
Well, never have like switches been so important in a movie. Oh, what a
That
good
ash, you
shot.
can see that ash falling off of the cigarette in like the silhouette. Tour de force.
Oh,
I love good prop acting. Like the work that he does with the cigarette in the movie is great. Anytime there's like somebody incorporates business into their performance like that well, it's always a blast.
I also love the way like the lights like kind of shine across camera at times. Like that was something that Steven always wanted to have happen too. He always wanted to make sure that like that light would like kind of blind you for a second and come across. So it's like he was that detailed.
huh. I mean, that's choreography too there, right? It's like making sure you guys are moving, you know, the helmet and the lights here in that way. Ah, such another iconic sequence coming up.
You guys, I like that now you've gotten to the point where you're comfortable enough to be like the start of this scene. Like,
Yeah.
my legs are tired.
Yeah, all
like-
that stuff again was just like Steven, like, you know, coming up with some things.
Yeah.
And this was funny because obviously this is all CGI. That Gallimimus line, there was a time when I literally couldn't remember the name of them. Like in the performance, I'm supposed to be trying to search for it. And there was actually one outgoing, and then I was finally like, I really can't remember. He was like, oh, Joe, I thought you were just like really.
Like, that was great. Do that
really
again. But
You're that method.
yeah, this is a really cool scene too.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this was like really fun because they weren't there, and we just have to be looking at nothing. You know what I mean? Like that. You see me like kind of up and like everywhere. And then even here, when the T-Rex comes in, there was no T-Rex here for this. It was just like this really long wooden pole, and then a T-Rex head that looked like it was drawn by like a 5-year-old, just like someone scribbling it, and then just two guys just holding it and going like this, like, and Steven just on a bullhorn, just being like, okay, now it's eating the dinosaur. No, you're seeing it. It's like kind of directing in real time there, and us, of course, like observing nothing happen in real life. There was also a take I ruined here where I sneezed, which is sort of fun because I think like leave and then he like comes and gets me, and I was like holding in a sneeze the whole time. I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. I just like sneezed right here.
I do love that little moment of him, like the look that Sam Neill gives as he comes back and gets you too.
Yeah.
Is there are I've noticed a couple of questions since that was you had to do a lot of running and a little bit of jumping over stuff there, but there's a handful of people that have asked. Here's one. Iridescent Luna on Discord asks if you ever got an injury on set. Did you hurt yourself at all through the filming of the movie?
I did a little. Yes, I got hurt a little bit. I will wait for that scene, I think, to tell that story.
Okay. Is that going to be your least favorite scene too?
It's not going to be my least favorite scene, actually. Believe it or not, it's going to be. You're going to be disappointed about what my least favorite scene.
I can't wait.
But no, it was among my favorite scenes. It happened during the kitchen sequence when the kids were left alone.
Here's another question from about the scene we just watched, though. But so when you saw the movie for the first time, this is Taylor Lee who's watching on IGN YouTube. When you saw the movie for the first time with the running Gallimimus scene that we just saw, what was your reaction when you saw the final dinosaur? Like, you talk about filming it and running around and just looking at nothing, and then how did you feel about the scene when you first saw it?
I was just super excited. I think I had to sit on my like jacket because I was so short in the theater to be able to see everything. So I was like perched on something, and it was those scenes that just like, you know, put the biggest smile on my face. That like to see how it all came together, and remembering just as I did right now about beautiful location, but it was just three of us. Nothing was around.
Right.
And so kind of like doing that stuff was just like great. And again, like, and you see like kind of how your imagination storyboards, like, you know, when kind of come together, and there you have it, like the real life image of it. It was things like that, and things like the scenes that I wasn't in. Like, obviously as a kid, like my family read the script, but you don't know, like you forget as a kid, like the other stuff that's going on like outside of like your part. Like I remembered all my stuff really vividly, but like this with Muldoon or with Ellie here, like it terrified me in the theater. Absolutely, I was shaking during this whole scene when he says we're being. I just think the scene is so incredible.
Muldoon, this character,
Bob Peck,
he's
gone
just
too soon.
so good.
Well, it's so interesting scenes like this. And sorry, I think my camera's a little laggy, but hopefully you guys can hear me. But this goes back to like the first scene where we meet Alan Grant, and he establishes that like raptors would come at you from the sides, and like it was traumatic, but like you might have forgotten that until this moment. Intentionally, it lulls you into that sense of like complacency. But I love like the movie's so smart. To your point about Steven doing everything so precisely. And that's like one of the first things we learn in this movie, and it comes into play. And like, look at her moves there, like acrobatics to escape.
Establishing like that, like
Joe, we lost you there for just a second. If you can start that thought over.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's happening while also establishing how, like, cruel Dr. Grant is being to a child and how he, like, really doesn't like this kid and, like, almost enjoys scaring him. You know what I mean? So it sets, like, that up. And then at the same time is setting up this other scene in the movie. It just, like, I don't know, it just all works together so brilliantly.
So efficient. Everything's got to do more than one thing.
Oh, you guys are back. Oh, here you go.
Well, if you want to know my favorite scene to shoot, it was this one.
Because you get to kiss Sam Neill.
Because I get to kiss Sam Neill, guys. No, because I, like, unlike Tim, I have no fear of heights. I'm, like, weird about it. Like, I'll go to the Grand Canyon and stand with my toes over the edge. It's really stupid. And so here, all I wanted to do was climb this fence. I wanted to climb this fence all day. I wanted to do the stunt. I wanted to fall off. I wanted to do all of it. And there was a time when, like, we were shooting, and it's like a wide shot, and so we're climbing. And I took it upon myself to just climb as fast as I could. And I climb all the way to the top, which, of course, like, ruins the scene because I'm, like, not trepidatious at all. But there was a huge, like, panic on set because suddenly this 8-year-old boy is, like, climbing 20 feet in the air. And before I knew it, they were like screaming, cut, and be like, "Joey, come down, Joey, take it one step at a time." Like you had the guys coming up to like get me and follow me up there. I was like, what? Like I was showing off, like just because I loved it so much. Yeah, one time I was a little out of character. Sorry, Steven. Ruined that.
But that was a case. What we'll come up to. That was you doing your own stunts. Then you wanted to do that.
I very much wanted to, yeah, but of course it ended up being Laura Dash who actually flew from the fence. But they had this big fence, and they also had like a miniature fence. You can see even there, like I'm gaining on.
Yeah,
I just loved climbing.
I was gonna ask. Is that the take that you ruined?
It was like that, and it was also like a wider one.
Yeah.
They were probably doing them. They might have been doing them at the same time. This is such a great scene too. The suspense of just like it's not just the dinosaurs that are putting us in peril. It's like, you know, human error that's also doing it.
Yeah.
This was like a smaller fence. They had like a fence that's like 1/3 of the size, and it had like a big like blue pad that you can like fall off of. Like I only have like foot, which again I was very disappointed about. I wanted to fall about 20 feet if I could. But it was amazing like the technology even this day. Like, you know, Laura, again, my stunt double, she had a full harness on and a crane that like took her off of there and like down into Sam Neill essentially. And onto a big pad is where it really was. But they just like stripped all that away. They stripped away her harness. They like stripped away the big bag, and suddenly it just looks like me flying down like into, you know, being caught by Sam. It's like that they even had the technology to do all of that is pretty incredible.
And this whole sequence is, I mean, it like you talked about it, how tense it. You know, cross-cutting, turning the power back on while you guys are on the fence. And it just builds and builds and builds. Like, and even this shot that's coming up here that like zooms down and into the fence that you're on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's your fence. Oh no. just the way that it continues to ratchet everything up with just pushing buttons. Like it's incredible.
That was Laura right there. That wasn't me. Hanging on the fence.
That's you, though.
That is me. A lot of people always point out, couldn't you have fit through the fence? Don't worry about it. There, that was her.
And
it was funny though when we did the CPR, because first, like, I think Sam was like worried about it. He was like embarrassed about it or whatever. It was just like, oh, like, I don't know. It's like weird. It's like a kid. This is the moment that scared me in theaters where I jumped out of my seat.
Oh,
Nothing scared me more than that. When the raptor comes through the bars like that, and Ellie says, "I think we're back in business." That was the scariest moment in the movie to me.
Well,
also,
it's such a.
I love her response, just like jumping on the door too,
Yeah.
Well, I love it, and also like just they've been trying to get the power back on. Yeah. I do wonder like about this raptor's motive, right? Like because I'm also like because he was hiding there or she was hiding there the whole time, like waiting for Ellie to finish, and then she like turns around right when she thinks she's done it. That's when she jumps out, and then apparently the raptor had also hidden the body behind that box.
No, there's a lot of jostling, okay?
No, I mean, look, it's one of those things. It's like, if that's the stuff that you're actually worried about, like, you're missing the point. Like,
I'm going to text Steven right now. I'm going to tell him you said this.
I would love it.
That arm.
I'm honestly, if there were, like, I want to know, like, what was that raptor thinking? We know how smart they are, so I wouldn't put it past the raptors to plan something. Yeah.
Let's dial him in. Let's get him in the.
Does he have Discord installed?
And this scene is so great too.
I think we're coming up to my favorite line.
The real winner of the best line from Jurassic Park. I think we've all just been killing time.
Clever girl is the best line in the film.
God,
and the way he's just a clever girl, like the way he admires them is just like so perfect.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. There's an appreciation there. Like
Spielberg puts it behind, like, you know, the palm fronds, so, you know, and how Grant said, "You're alive when they start to eat you," you know.
Yeah.
All those things that you remember from the opening.
There it is, guys. Sleeping Beauty.
Great on screen.
At first, he was doing it like this, like with his two hands, like that, like blowing into the hands. And then it was just like, oh, this looks stupid. He's like, I'm just going to do it. Is that all right? I'm like, get it.
I'm a kid. I don't know.
But it's funny, like those little things that you think you would never have to think about. But it's just like weird, like sort of like weird intimate moments between like actors. So.
And multiple takes needed too.
Of course.
Right?
And I got my human piece of toast hair. I thought about that look for the night tonight, guys. I just didn't have enough hairspray in the world to get my hair back up like that.
Get just the one day before you came on camera.
Yeah, this is the one day Spielberg was finally content with the way my hair looked when I came on set.
I will say there's something funny about the scene to me, and I made a note of this when I was rewatching it just the other night. Like, human piece of toast, that's kind of a mean thing to say, and it seems like Tim doesn't really appreciate it there, too. Like, it seems like, okay, man, just take it easy.
Okay, are you guys ready? This was my least favorite scene in the movie. When I have to eat the desserts. The desserts were disgusting, and I don't know why. We started with a lemon meringue, okay? I'm like, lemon meringue, maybe that'll be good. I was like, I hate this. Do I have to eat this trash? And then we tried to move on to the chocolate cake to see if maybe like that would work better. I hated that too. Look at that great acting. See how much I look like I loved it? The chocolate cake, which I love chocolate cake, that was worse. So back to the lemon meringue. I was like, can I have the Jell-O? No, the Jell-O's thing. It's got to jiggle.
You gotta have the wobbly Jell-O.
And this is just one of my favorite shots ever too. Just having the mural and then the shadow behind it. It's just so brilliant. But yeah, that little moment was my favorite thing. And then we did this, which I loved every moment of doing this scene. How incredible. The writing is so amazing too. You put the kids in danger without the adults. Like
Yeah.
that's like the ultimate like terrifying thing. Like all of this stuff is about like keeping these kids safe, and then like little does Dr. Grant know that they're not safe. Another iconic shot in the film. Like just that stuff is just so amazing. I love that shot too.
This.
And the opening the doors. Oh,
The evil smiles on the face of the Raptors is the thing that's stuck with me. There's another shot later of just, it looks like the Raptor has an evil grin on its face, which is like those are the ones that really stuck with me. And I love the juxtaposition there. Not unless they can figure out how to open doors.
Open doors. And then there.
So talk to us about filming
yeah.
this scene, because this scene is just a masterclass in building tension. Like it's such good scene.
This scene alone took 2 weeks to film.
Really?
It was 2 weeks to get from start to finish on this film. It was on a soundstage. It was funny, like, because when like the entire idea that was so terrifying, I was like thinking like I might like as an actor want to like cry, and Spielberg was like, don't cry, like, you know, stay, even though you're afraid, stay brave, like that will work better. And that was like that was one of the other notes I always really remember, because I was like, I don't know, like I feel like I'm just gonna cry because of how like terrifying this is. And it's like, no, fight that urge. You know, you're here, you got to survive, and you can't like have that weak moment. You got to try to get out of this. All of the people who were, I mean, this scene had everything, right? It had that's like someone in a raptor suit who did that, like the tapping on the ground. So that's actually a person inside the suit doing the moves of the raptor. You had there it is again. That's like actually just a person in the suit. You had CGI. You had the animatronics. You had, again, like 20 people behind every one of those shelves or whatever they are, countertops. You had just like 20 people, again, like one person doing the nostril, one person doing the foot. You had, it was like I said, it was like a symphony. That's obviously CGI when he jumps up, because you see like both feet come off the ground. This whole sequence, this was also done on my birthday, which was in the 2 weeks. This is, of course, another iconic shot, and probably my favorite of the movie for obvious reasons. Like us both like looking the same way. It's just like so incredible. But yeah, it was on my birthday when we shot the scene where I run into the freezer, and that's where the injury happened.
Oh, where you run into the freezer?
Yes, and it's because we had another version of the Raptor where it was just literally a Raptor on wheels, just like a shopping cart almost, where they were just pushing the Raptor from behind. And so the way it was supposed to work is I'm supposed to run into the freezer, I'm supposed to go left, and the Raptor's supposed to go right, just like that, boom, boom. And we just weren't getting it right. We did like 12 takes or something. And so finally, on one of these takes, I go left, and the guys who had it lost control of it, and it swerved my way, and I turned around, and the claw hit me right in the middle of the forehead. And the claws were actually metal. The claws weren't like a rubber. And I got knocked down to the ground, and everyone kind of rushes over to see if I'm okay. And I'm like a little woozy, but I'm okay. And that's when Spielberg says, "Okay, well, this is as good a time as any." And he says, "Ready, everybody? Happy birthday."
Oh.
Dude, and the entire crew starts singing "Happy Birthday" to me at that moment. We do cake. I'm on the ground eating my like birthday cake. Everyone around is eating the cake. And of course, and this is Steven to a T, at the end of it, he's like, "Hey Joey, do you think we can do just those?" And then I like tried to get up, but then I was woozy, and I was like, "Okay, no, we got it, it's fine."
It's like the scariest, but also most heartwarming thing.
It was funny, and I had like a wild moment.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any questions about this scene? I'm curious.
I was just about to bring one up. Yeah, there's a question. Jake Wenzel brought it up. Just how do you feel about this scene when Lex is navigating the Unix? And this is Jake Wenzel saying this, not me. Often it is said that Tim is useless there for not grabbing the gun. Do you agree?
Wow.
I was waiting for this. Okay, because I have been slandered.
Oh wait, hang on. We lost you. We lost you for just 1 second. I want to make sure you get everything out. Yeah.
Thank you, because I'm getting emotional. I'm getting angry, and maybe the server feels it and, is trying to tone me down. But I will not be toned down. I will not be silenced, okay? Because I for 6 years about this scene, okay? I don't understand what people think I was going to do with that gun. I was going to give it to Dr. Grant? Yeah, then what? He's going to let go of the door. Is Ellie going to be able to hold the raptor down by herself? I don't think so. The two of them can barely do it together. Secondly, do we really want an 8-year-old boy handling a gun? You know what I mean? I think I did the right thing. I rooted on my sister. I was there for moral support. I was in a managerial role, okay? That's a very important thing, all right? And ultimately it worked because we got out of there alive, didn't we?
You know what? Sometimes you just have to know when the best course of action is to support. That's fine. That's adulthood right there.
That's right. Rah rah. And he's got the gun. Right. He's got the gun now.
I think the other proof is that he's already done with the gun. Like Dr. Grant's, he didn't really do much with the gun anyway. So I think
honestly, he should have stopped even going after the gun and just tried to close the stinking door. Okay, that's my personal opinion. Now, I'm not throwing that on to Sam. Sam, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I'm sure that wasn't your choice. I just feel like it was a little bit useless for you to be trying to get the gun. I probably couldn't have even lifted that gun. It was huge. To answer the question, do I wish I had picked up the gun and done a Rambo and killed every raptor and that was the end of the movie? With Tim, yeah, I do. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that the 9-year-old wasn't the big ear. That was another really innovative. Then we would have been. That was.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Say, that was Ariana's stunt double who did that, and then they did a face replacement. I think that was one of the first times they did that, where she looks up and they put Ariana's face on the stunt double's body, which was also pretty. And there were also
the raptor jumping up at her foot. That's right up there with the raptor jumping out from behind Ellie in terms of jump scares. Like that was one that was just like, yeah, like you can see it coming, it's coming, and it still gets.
Yeah, I know. That's a great moment too. And this whole sequence is brilliant, and it's sort of like in the script it wasn't this way. I can't remember exactly how it started, but it was like an on-set thing that Steven sort of came up with, the way this climax would happen. With the T-Rex becoming the hero, I feel like there's a big argument to be made that the T-Rex is the protagonist of this film.
I've heard that argument.
He is in captivity against his will, right? He kills the blood-sucking lord. He was sort of a bad guy, right? And then he ends up saving all of us from the horrible raptors. He is our hero. And I think that he doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think he was misunderstood, is what I think.
Well, this is almost like, I don't know if it was intentional, but it feels like it's like borrowing riffs from even kaiju movies. Godzilla versus Mothra or wherever, where you've established these creatures and then you have the Deus Ex Machina almost of the T-Rex where why would you be thinking, but of course the T-Rex is around and he's the biggest, predator and he's going to whip these guys apart. But it's so unexpected that's how they're saved. It's so good.
So awesome. That thing we just watched, but also when the bones came crashing down on me, that was really, because I had to act in reverse. The way it was shot is they actually had the bones on top of me and they lifted them up off of me. So I, as the actor, actually had to start like this and then up at it.
Wow.
And then they reversed it all. They reversed the film for the movie. So I had to actually learn how to act back.
That's crazy, but I'm glad they didn't drop it on you too. I'm glad they pulled it off you instead of dropping it on you.
just what a great climax. Just such a great idea to have these guys, you know, just fighting each other. And then, of course, when dinosaurs ruled the earth, like
the banner fluttering down.
The hero shot of that's brilliant. Probably the iconic shot in this movie.
And this great bookend of the Jeep door opening up, all splattered with mud now. And it was all pristine to start with.
And this great line too, you know, like the one where he says, "I've decided not to endorse your park, so have I." And he, you know, he finally comes around to it.
Which is the last line of the movie. The rest is just good old fashioned face acting.
Music and birds and a silent film, exactly. That was awesome too, that climax. Like we got to watch that on set, like the whole thing like get destroyed and everything explode, and there was just no T-Rex there. It was just like everything else happening. And so again, like seeing it for the first time was so awesome. Like when you got to see like all the pieces that were missing when we were on set back in. This is where we were doing the people look like ants down there.
That's great.
I want to see that cut.
I know, we should have filmed it. He gave me as a wrap gift, Jeff Goldblum gave me 6 Beatles albums. And I, to this day, am like the biggest Beatles fan, and it's a lot to do with Jeff giving me that as a gift.
That's very Jeff Goldblum.
Here we have the end. Here we have the end of Dr. Grant's arc. And again, I love that the whole movie ends without any more dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Nothing has to be said, just that smile, and then the birds, and just like it just all comes together so beautifully.
Yeah, it's like rare that a movie has such a climax and then just ends relatively abruptly. Like it's a very short epilogue that kind of ties it together, and as you guys pointed out, like largely without dialogue, because what more is there kind of to say after that experience, and they leave, except for all the sequels.
And then you fly off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Helicopter. We had a helicopter into so many sets. That was so awesome too. Just like flying in Kauai, like through all these like basically national parks. We went to the wettest spot on Earth where it rained. It rains every single day. It rains every single day. The wettest place on Earth.
Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy too.
Produced by Kathy Kennedy.
Absolutely. We've been a team for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, that's Jurassic Park. Thanks for watching with us, man. We really how did it hold? You haven't seen it in 6 or 7 years. As you remember?
I mean, you guys wouldn't shut up. Like you just kept yapping through the whole thing, so I could barely pay attention.
Sorry about that.
I'm gonna just start watching it again after we get off. I'm just gonna put it on the big screen and make it happen. But no, it's awesome. I mean, this movie is just so incredible. I love actually not being able to hear it and still feeling like I know every line.
And you can hear the music too.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what a score! Just so brilliant.
There he is.
Woo!
Yeah.
I love that font too.
It's great.
Iconic. Even the font is iconic in the credits.
Yeah. Well, we've got. If you don't mind sticking around for a few more minutes, we've got some more questions here. Here's one from Cuddle with 3 S's. Cuddles on Discord. How emotional was your last day on set? You talked about how much fun the entire shoot was. How emotional was your last day having to leave?
It's I mean, almost on every set it's really emotional. It's sort of a tradition that when an actor is wrapped, that they get announced. It's like that's a wrap on Joey Mazzello, and then like the entire crew like applauds for you, which is like a really sweet thing that's totally unnecessary. Everybody's job is vitally important on a movie set, but it's always just like it makes it feel a bit like a play where you kind of take a bow like after that, and it's always bittersweet. You feel so proud of what you've accomplished. You'll see everybody again, but that moment when it's over is always the worst feeling, and you don't want to leave. I still feel that. It's being an actor and movie making is an addiction, and every time you leave, you just want to come back on that set. Like I think I said this before, but like I feel like when I'm on set, I'm at home. That's the one place where I feel the most at peace and the most comfortable. And so when you have to leave a wonderful experience, it breaks your heart. But it's easier now because of like like I said, like social media and things and just technology stuff like this, being able to, Discord and Zoom and all these things, like, even like with the Bohemian cast, like we do that once a week. We all like, kind of get together. And so it's so much easier now than it used to be, which is a wonderful thing. But back then it wasn't.
Well, let's lighten it up a little bit. Kate Morris on IGN's. Yeah. Well, hang on.
Steven said don't cry.
Steven said don't cry. That still holds up. 20 years later, he still means it. That would be amazing if you then told us you haven't cried since.
I've never. I got my tear ducts removed. No, I cry in every freaking movie I have to make.
Kate Morris, who's watching on IGN's YouTube channel, wants to know, what was your favorite blooper or goof up from you or the other cast members during the shoot? Or any spring to mind? Aside from the sneeze and the ant bit that you did with Jeff Goldblum, we covered those.
Yeah, I sort of covered them. I think it was very funny. Like I said, when I couldn't remember the name of that dinosaur, that was pretty great. Just because like they thought it was this like brilliant moment of me like reaching into my soul to think about this dinosaur's name, and it was really just like I just forgot my line. straight up forgot my line. That was all it was. Yeah, that was probably it. Hate to disappoint with that answer.
No, well, when you only get one take with Spielberg, you no time for goose.
Can't.
Juana Fernandez on IGN YouTube wants to know.
Also, like the tooth falling out was a huge like blooper thing. Like literally that they couldn't get that tooth back in. Like it's still like just incredible. Like we're looking up at this dinosaur and it's missing. It's like, hey Joe, like it's missing a tooth. It kind of ruined the illusion of like the fear. You know what I mean? So that would have to be number one. Like the fact that it broke the window and lost a tooth. Hysterical.
Juana Fernandez, who's watching on IGN YouTube, wants to know which scene took the most shots to get
right.
Yeah.
Like I said, the kitchen sequence being 2 weeks, that was the most time we spent on any particular scene. That and when you first see the T-Rex, if that's all one scene, that took an incredible amount of time. That was a real undertaking. Like I said, that was indoors, right? So it's raining on us. They're just like turning on the sprinklers, so it's dark, it's raining. You have a multi-ton dinosaur. You have cars spinning around. You have kids. You have mud. You have stunts. You have every single thing that you can imagine in that sequence. And so that was like an enormous undertaking, and we were there for quite a while.
And then here's one you touched on this a little bit. And Amy Roth. Let's go with Amy Roth. I almost said Amir, which I think that's a full name there. Amy Roth on Discord wants to know if there were any moments when filming Jurassic Park that just felt downright surreal. Did anything register with you when you were?
When I saw the Triceratops for the first time, that was the first dinosaur we saw. And it all really came together in that moment, like walking onto that set. It almost felt like it wasn't the movie. Like you watch my little legs come in and then you like reveal the dinosaur. Although actually in the reverse shot, you see I yawn. That's a little blooper that made it into the movie. I start by being in awe of it. I go like, oh, and then I go, which was unintentional. But in reality, it was just so incredible to finally see these dinosaurs come to life, see the size of them. It was just like a surreal experience where you realized like the scope of what you were making. That and I'll never forget that day. Yeah, when Steven knocked on the door of our school trailer and says, "I got to take Joey on a field trip," and just took me in to like look at the T-Rex for the first time and stand there and withstand like the ways they moved it and like the smaller models that they had. And just him showing me like what we were about to do, what we were about to like, take on. That was just wild and such such an awe-inspiring moment. And that's why that picture that I couldn't show you today is just like my favorite one ever, because that is that moment of us just of like Steven being the teacher for me that he sort of was for my childhood.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then we got one more here. This would be a good one to end it on. Beverly Marsh on Discord asking if you had a chance of playing any other character in the movie, which one would you choose?
Oh man. Well, like I said, I love Muldoon so much, but I want to make it. I think I want to make it. So I'm not going to choose him. Gosh, I don't know. I guess I would have to say. Although Jeff doesn't get Jeff after the halfway point. He's kind of agile. But Malcolm is so much fun to be able to play. If I could play that role and do an impression of Jeff Goldblum, maybe I would choose that rather than the actual role itself. But I guess if I really had to choose, I would come back as Sam. Sam is just such a hero in this movie and gets to have so much of the fun and so much of the adventure. I think you got to go there. I'm stealing Sam Neill's role. Dr. Grant got to do
Dr.
it.
Grant.
And I get to wear that amazing hat.
Yes.
The
white hat. Not white, but Yeah.
To be a dick to it, nice guy. A dream of an arc for
That's all you can ask for. Short of cosplaying as Jeff Goldblum as Dr. Malcolm, I think you did it right there. Well, thanks again for joining us, man. Really appreciate you watching along with us. And thank you for everybody watching along at home. We will be back next week with more Watch From Home Theater, so stick around IGN and Cinefix, and we will see you next week. And Joe, thanks again, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope you could hear me and see me pretty well enough anyway.
You're beautiful, and your set is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Go fit into that T-shirt.
Put my mom's pictures back up.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks. We'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.